she trusts that Cyan will handle things in his own way. Right now, she believes it's more important for her to become stronger, so she can be ready to help him when the time comes. Marion, who's nearby, praises Alice's determination and tells her to continue training. Alice agrees and goes back to her practice. On the other hand, Lunav finds herself trapped by the grandfather, who's trying to rip Cyan away from her mind. Lunav's grandfather warns that resisting will only make things more painful, to which Lunav cries out, refusing to let Cyan be taken from her. Suddenly something strange happens, and the surroundings shift into another realm. The grandfather is shocked. A powerful figure, Lem, appears and warns him that he has entered a forbidden territory. Lem radiates dark mana and reveals the terrifying power of the demonic scriptures, Lemiharum. The grandfather realizes Lunav had these demonic scriptures all along. After that, Lem calls him an inferior being and tells him to choke on the truth he was so desperate to uncover. And Lunav finally gets out of his grandfather's control, and he sits down on the floor, accepting his defeat. Lunav questions whether Lem caused this, but Lem accuses Lunav of planning it from the beginning, which Lunav doesn't deny. Instead, Lunav thanks Lem and says it's time to go help Cyan. As they prepare to leave, someone calls out to Lunav. After this, Lem stares coldly and asks what they're looking at, standing at Lunav's head. In a safe house on the outskirts of Lewin, Brian shows a wanted poster with Cyan's face on it and warns that royal knights are swarming the streets, searching for him. Also, Brian insists Cyan has been framed, and Nana echoes his concern. Tension rises as Brian prepares his sword, declaring he made an oath to protect Cyan and Nana with his life. Nana joins him, ready to fight. Suddenly there's a knock. A girl hesitates, then opens the door, and Cyan stands there calmly. Everyone is overwhelmed with relief. Brian tears up and Nana runs to Cyan, calling him Papa. After that, Cyan tells them to keep quiet because he had been really worried. Cyan confirms he's not guilty and says he won't bother explaining himself and warns that this place isn't safe anymore because Ashel now has the Holy Sword, and it won't take long before he finds their location. Cyan says the only option now is to hide inside his other dimension because the entire empire is turning into his enemy. Brian, emotional and firm, declares his loyalty will never shake and promises to protect Cyan no matter what path he walks, to which Cyan accepts it, though the girl thinks Brian gets too serious sometimes, and Nana urges him to hurry. With that, Cyan turns to Lem. Now that the distractions are out of the way, Lem smirks, ready to go wild, but Cyan reminds him there's something specific he needs to do. Lem seems thrilled that whatever it is, it sounds exciting. Lunav's grandfather fumes in frustration after learning the truth that he always believed Cyan had the demonic scriptures, but to find out they were with Lunav all along shocks him deeply. A subordinate rushes in, apologizing for returning without the others, and explains that everyone else was defeated by Lunav herself. The old man angrily realizes that Lunav completely outsmarted them. The subordinate anxiously asks what their next move should be, to which the grandfather thinks that Lunav now has the scriptures, and if they continue chasing Cyan, they'll inevitably run into Lunav. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to a quiet night near a tall building. Cyan stands boldly under the moonlight, facing a group of soldiers who came to capture him. Suddenly, Cyan speaks out, almost taunting them, and calls for their attention, acknowledging their presence with a smirk. Then, with absolute confidence, he challenges them, telling them to catch him if they can. The academy feels strangely quiet now, almost as if something important is missing. The spot where Cyan once sat seems to echo with emptiness, and even the surroundings feel like they're grieving his absence. Seth sits there feeling down, wondering if Cyan will ever return. After everything they went through together, Seth can't understand how Cyan could just disappear like that, because the thought weighs heavily on him, making school feel dull and meaningless. Just as Seth starts losing hope, Lunav bursts into the scene with excitement and tells Seth that she found Cyan and urges him to come with her right away. After hearing this, Seth is shocked but quickly lights up with hope, because he also can't help but notice a small, adorable creature resting on Lunav's head. But before he can ask more, Lem steps in and tells him to hurry. Without wasting a second, Seth agrees and decides not to overthink and lifts Lunav in his arms, smashes through a wall, and follows Lem's lead. Also, Lem assures them that the destination isn't far, asking them to hold on tight as they speed toward Cyan's location. Aaron is shocked to hear the news that Cyan is in Exilum. In fact, Lamella tells her that Lunav wanted to pass on this message before she was taken away by Mr. Rygans. After this, Aaron quickly decides to ask Dean Kundal for help, while Lamella quietly takes her leave. But just after Lamella departs, Aaron hears something unbelievable, that Cyan is being blamed for the Banquet of Blood, accused of destroying Exilum, and even being labeled as a member of Mist, a dark organization tied to the evil Black Fog. Aaron feels crushed because she realizes she truly didn't know much about Cyan at all, and now everything seems like a lie. All her training, all her effort to grow strong enough to stand by his side suddenly feels meaningless. Indeed, Cyan seems far out of reach now, like he's in a place of darkness where someone like her can never follow. The helplessness makes her feel even worse, and despite being a princess, Aaron feels completely useless. Just then, Her grandfather Dean Kundal questions her gently, asking how much of the news she actually believes, to which Aaron, holding back tears, says firmly that she doesn't believe any of it because Cheyenne has always supported Aaron and always been kind. Aaron knows deep down Cheyenne could never do something like that. Dean Kundal gives her a nod that if that's what she believes, then there's no time to waste and they need to move quickly. Elsewhere at the same time, Cheyenne is surrounded by a crowd of enemies and challenges them all at once, clearly unimpressed by their movements. Redbeck, the Academy's top student known for his exceptional stamina and mana ranks, steps forward and believes he can finally bring Cheyenne down and unleashes his most powerful attack, Dragon Spear, in a dramatic display of fire and strength. Everyone watching expects this to end the chase, but Cheyenne defeats Redbeck with ease. The onlookers are stunned, unable to believe how quickly their strongest fighter was taken down. Cheyenne sees no reason to stick around if that was their best, and starts preparing something far more dangerous, the opening of the gates to hell. Elsewhere, Aaron flies through the sky, determined not to leave Cheyenne alone any longer because she's ready to fight beside him. Meanwhile, the battlefield turns chaotic, reinforcements are being sent to Square B, and soldiers are running in all directions. Amid the disorder, Karam keeps the enemies occupied. Cheyenne, watching from a distance, thinks she's doing a great job and decides to make use of this distraction. While everyone is focused on her, Cheyenne quietly moves toward the base, knowing that Ashel should have arrived there by now. Also, Ashel Vert gets cursed as a hypocrite. Suddenly, Riggins appears and commends Cheyenne's sharp reflexes. After seeing him, Cheyenne is unsure of who this man is, to which Riggins states that while Cheyenne may not know him, he knows Cheyenne very well. After that, Riggins introduces himself as Riggins Rainreaver, the president of the Garam Association. Cheyenne, keeping his guard up, asks what business Riggins has in the Ushif Empire and what he wants from him, to which Riggins appreciates Cheyenne's directness, noting it's a trait he shares with his father. Without wasting any time, Riggins presents his true motive, that he wants Cheyenne to marry his granddaughter, Lunav. After hearing this, Cheyenne is left completely dumbfounded by the unexpected proposal. Riggins offers more like forces Cheyenne to join the Garam Association, since most of the incidents, like ruining the excavation of the ruins, halting the smuggling, and cutting off connections with the dragons, were all his doing. Moreover, his granddaughter is head over heels for him. Despite the undeniable offer, Cheyenne decides to turn it down, saying there's no way a 9-star sage can't bring a fruition. He's sure that Riggins has some ulterior motive involving Lunav and him, which he won't allow. Riggins is furious but promises that if he can't have him, then nobody else can. Honestly, Riggins sounds more like a crazy ex-boyfriend. At the Brno estate, the report that all the knights were knocked out by a mere kid infuriates Lunel. But a bigger issue arises. The Garam Association members ambush their knights and are currently locked in battle with them. Lunel throws the messenger aside and orders that they all be killed. He laughs madly, convinced it's a provocation from the Garam kingdom. Then, he commands that the Knights of Light be sent if reinforcements fall short. The messenger is shaken, as the Knights of Light are the front lines of the demon realm. But Lunel doesn't care. He's already made the arrangements. Hearing that, the messenger loses his composure, saying it's practically a declaration of war. Lunel then locks eyes with Aaron and directly asks if they're there to ruin his plan. Aaron holds out a paper in front of his face, a direct order from the king stating that Lewin Academy will assist in searching for her fiancé. Lunel grows furious and demands that Aaron prove the document's legitimacy. The old man accompanying Aaron intervenes, assuring Lunel that he was sent to support her since the king's health continues to deteriorate. This only enrages Lunel further when he realizes the king gave him no orders. The old man then sternly questions why Lunel is trying to start a war with the Garam kingdom. In response, Lunel instantly orders his knights to attack, accusing them of blasphemy. But the old man uses his barrier magic to defend himself and angrily tells Lunel to stop acting like a brat. He's shocked that Lunel insists on fighting him. After all, he's his grandfather. Lunel's reason is simple. Why is his grandfather trying to stop him? The old man answers that he can't stand by and watch him sabotage himself any longer. Before Lunel can act, the grandfather takes Aaron and teleports away. He guides Aaron to a location far from the Lord's estate. There, his granddaughter reveals that the royal decree was fake all along, astonishing him. As they make their escape, she asks why he's helping her. His answer is simple. He wants to see the future of the boy who keeps pissing him off. Meanwhile, a man is stuck on a building when Seth and Lunav arrive at the scene. They survey the area and find Cheyenne holding someone by the collar. Seth cheerfully walks toward them, but Lunav's bag suddenly yells that it's not Cheyenne. Alarmed, she stops Seth and the fake Cheyenne smirks. He's impressed that she could tell because she's a demonic scriptures owner. The fake Cheyenne reveals his true form, the demonic sword Karam. Seth is shocked to see his old buddy turned into a girl. As Karam explains how the plan unfolded, they sense a powerful aura passing nearby. Lunav quickly realizes it's her grandfather's aura. From the bag, a shadow emerges, remarking that Riggins sure is fast and assuming that Cheyenne must be there too. He decides to take them to him. Karam mocks him by calling him a halfling, though still impressed by his strength. Meanwhile, a group of knights hears a loud thud, assuming it's an explosion coming from the direction they were headed. The ground starts shaking, and they think it's an earthquake, until they see Seth and Lunav advancing. The sight alone is enough to make them wet their pants. Ashel sees the explosions from the distance and tells his guards that's where the traitor of the Empire, Cyan Vert, is. He tells his guards that their duty is to eliminate evil in the world, raises his sword, and asks them to follow him on his hunt for Cyan. The knights cheer for him in unison and follow him behind. The Holy Sword reminds the successor that he needs the powers back to fulfill his duties. Some guards gossip that rallying the knights against his own brother is what can be expected from a Vert. His fellow tries to warn him that someone might hear, but the guard insists that there are already enough rumors. He explains that the rumors say this battle won't end in Brno and they'll be charging into the palace next. The guard hopes the rumors are false, but his fellow shows him around to see how ominous all the other knights are. Meanwhile, our protagonist pins the fighters into the wall. Those watching him are shocked to see his demonic energy. He hurries them to came at him. The fighters feel insulted, but right then, Reigans flies in. He now understands why his enemy is so important to Lunav and realizes that he can't let him live. Reigans summons the meteor. Everyone around sees the 9-star spell and runs for their lives while our hero stands fearlessly. Cyan stands staring at the spell coming down. He now understands how evil his opponent is, seeing him not care about his subordinates. As the meteor rains down, the people run for their lives but stumble into Seth. He pushes them all away with the tornado, and Lunav walks in, hurrying him to get to their friend. At the battle, Reigans stands tall above his meteor. Suddenly, our hero breaks through the spell with his Void Sphere Obsession. He then uses the Division spell. Reigans is impressed with his use of the Void Sphere but diminishes it instantly. Our protagonist is shocked to see his spell countered so easily, and Reigans reveals his Caligorna's bead. He reveals that the bead's oblivion counters the Void Sphere. Our hero is shocked to see his opponent with such a rare artifact. Reigans then uses the bead's Soul Harvester. Suddenly, Lunav steps into the fight, ordering her grandfather to stop. She tells him to deal with her if he really wants her demonic scriptures, and tells him to stay away from Cyan. Karam tells our hero that he found some bet and that he feels his brother is close. Seth tells his friend that he heard about him being framed and tells him to leave the fight to him. Our hero wishes his friends good luck and leaves to face his real enemy. However, Reigans refuses to let him off so easily and sends his Soul Harvester after him. Suddenly, Lunav uses the Seeds of Restraint. A crown manifests on Reigans' head, and then Lunav casts a verbal promise fulfillment spell. Reigans screams in pain and drops his beads. The soul harvest on our hero's tail disappears. Reigans is confused, wondering how his granddaughter planted the seeds of restraint in his head. Lunav explains that she did it when he entered her head, and reminds him that that's why he should stay away from her. Reigans reminds her of the consequences, but Lunav has already prepared for it, and now, she intends to show her grandfather the truth he desperately wanted. She proceeds to show him the power of the truth that he desperately sought. Meanwhile, the guards are shocked to see the patrol team running back. Our hero cuts through the patrol teal with his Rising Fog spell. The knights see him coming and draw their swords out. They're shocked to see the patrol team be defeated by a 13-year-old kid. Our hero leaps towards them. The knights see his demonic sword and run towards him. Our hero uses the rushing fog storm followed by a serial slash, cutting through the knights at once. Right then, the knight summons Lumendel's arm and crushes our hero down. He cheers excitedly seeing his attack land, but then our hero breaks through it. The knight then summons the perfect thunder, but our hero dodges it. He leaps towards his opponent, grabs him by his face, and smashes him into the ground. Right then, Ashel walks in. He uses the God of Light's power Sun Carriage. Our hero realizes that his brother is starting off with a strong attack. He takes the blow and runs through to face his opponent. However, Cyan can feel Karam's pain and realizes that he shouldn't have directly taken on the Holy Sword's attack. Meanwhile, Karam withers in pain. Durand Dark comes in, looking down on her, thinking she's tamed. She tells Karam that she should have taken over the body of her owner as she usually would. Karam starts laughing at her. Durand Dark grabs her by the collar to ask her what she plans to do with her powers. Karam continues to laugh and tells her that seeing her face was totally worth being tamed. Durand Dark grows angry, wondering how they could find out her location so early, but Karam tells her to just enjoy the battle. She offers to make a bet on who will break first, her or Durand Dark's heir. As our hero uses the demonic sword manifestation, Ashel feels the atmosphere change. Our hero takes a swing and an explosion goes off. Ashel is surprised to see his brother destroy the power of the holy sword, and the power of the demonic sword is released. Our protagonist then uses the Dance of Black Blood technique. However, Ashel still feels confident that the power of the God of Light cannot be surpassed. Our hero mocks his opponent's shock at the demonic sword clashing with the holy sword. Ashel is shocked to see the other half of the holy sword in his opponent's hand. Our protagonist challenges him to take it if he can. Ashel orders his brother to hand it over, but Cyan refuses to just give it away. Durand Dark gets angry, and Karam warns her successor against his opponent. Ashel uses the holy sword manifestation. Our protagonist feels the holy power, and Karam tells him to stay away from the attack. Ashel then uses the God of Light's power. A blinding light takes over. Our hero dodges the attack, and Durand Dark reveals to her heir the half-power of the Holy Sword and orders him to bring the other half back to her. Ashel takes a swing, but our hero dodges. He then uses Rain of Flash, but our hero dodges that and retaliates with Assault. As the two enemies continue to block and attack each other, our hero can feel his sword crumble. Karam assures him that she can endure, and that even if she dies, she will take Durand Dark down with her. However, our hero knows it's a hopeless bluff because he heard those words in his past life too. When they were against the Demon King, Karam assured him to take care of his opponent, and that day, he lost Karam. Our protagonist refuses to repeat his past mistakes. He knows he needs to look for attack opportunities while dodging his opponent's attacks. Ashel attacks again, and seeing his brother dodge it, he realizes that his sword is at its limit. He takes another swing, and Durand Dark reminds Karam about their bet on who will break first. Meanwhile, the knights see the fight from the distance and realize that they can't interfere at this power level. They ask the other knights if they are going to intervene, but the knights don't answer. Instead, they all jump into the battlefield. Ashel lands a blow against his opponent, but our hero blocks it with his sword. Our hero uses his Void Sphere division to hold off the knights. He struggles to keep Boris's knights back. As the two continue to fight, Ashel asks his brother if he still wants to keep fighting, reminding him that he can't win. Our protagonist assures him he's perfectly fine and calls his opponent arrogant. Ashel summons his power and asks for the other half of the power back. He then summons the Holy Lance of Lu and lands multiple attacks against our hero. Meanwhile, the knights are impressed by Ashel's ability to fight. Luinel believes that it's not enough and orders them to use the Light Ray of Divine Punishment. The guards worry that it'll put Ashel in danger too, but Luinel orders them to do it. On the other hand, Lunav continues to torment her grandfather and thinks that the fighting is enough now. She stops hurting him, and Seth tells her that he's done too because the subordinates are too weak. However, Lunav knows Seth is just strong with a god's support and the people aren't weak. Seth acknowledges that it was the woman's help too. Lunav thanks the woman for her help. The woman takes her hood off and apologizes for jumping into the battle too late. But Lunav assures her that she was on time and she helped defeating the association members quickly. Suddenly, a spell appears in the sky and Lunav realizes that the magic weapon is being activated. Seeing that the weapon is used only in wars, she realizes that they're trying to get Cyan. Luinel stands before the soldiers, activating the magic weapon. He feels eager to get rid of all the people who look down on him. Ashel and our hero are surprised to see the magic weapon. Ashel uses the Border of God and destroys the weapon. As the whole place starts to collapse, Luinel tries to run for his life, but the walls crash down on him and bury him. Suddenly, Aaron jumps in and tells Ashel to stop and tells him she is going to take Tyann. As the fifth princess of the Ushif Empire, she orders him to put his weapon down. Dean Kundal steps in and restrains all the blood monsters, realizing that Ashel and Luinel could be related to the Banquet of Blood. Ashel breaks Dean Kundal's magic spell, leaving him shocked. He then releases his Godstinger attack at the Dean. Arn screams for Dean, and Cyan tells her to leave because he worries she'll just get in his way. However, Aaron refuses to abandon her fiancé, even though that's not the engagement our hero agreed to. Ashel thinks that the princess is seduced by his sibling and thinks it's his responsibility to save her. He uses the God of Light's supreme authority, the Halo Bringer. Our hero recognizes the ultimate skill of Lumendel that can slay even a god. This ability killed our hero in his past life. Right then, Aaron steps forward to shield Cyan and asks Ashel to stop. However, Ashel does not intend to go against the will of God. He releases his attack. Aaron closes her eyes, but then our protagonist pushes her aside to face the moment he's been waiting for. His opponent is surprised to see him smiling. The whole mana energy strikes our hero, and an explosion goes off. Dean Kundal continues to take down blood monsters, but more just keep coming back, and he knows that's just stalling the worst. Suddenly, Dean notices a chaotic mana, and when he turns around, he sees our protagonist going all out with his power. Ashel is confused seeing his opponent. Lundell tells him that his opponent is trying to take power. However, he finds it useless because our hero doesn't possess demonic or divine scriptures, and without God's promise, he'll die. But then, Aaron comes forward to save her friend. She knows she can't go back now, otherwise she'll lose Cyan. Right then, Lunav Rainreaver and her friends join the battle. Lunav asks Dean for his help in getting close to Cyan. Without any questions, Dean uses his reverse wave and clears the pathway for Lunav. As they rush through the battlefield, the monsters leap in on them, but suddenly Seth jumps off and pushes the monsters back while the rest run for Cyan. He and Lamella stand back to take care of the monsters while Lunav takes care of Cyan. Lunav hurries at Lem as Cyan's mana continues to weaken. Princess Aaron and our hero stand side by side, struggling to hold their ground. Ashel is surprised to see the demonic scripture arrive. Lunav and Lem jump past him and quickly run to Cyan. Lunav hurries to Lem to help their friend. Lem didn't expect our hero to be in this state, trying to kill himself, but he wonders if he had already seen them come. Lem thinks our hero knew he and Lunav would come. He uses the old god's promise to help our protagonist recharge his mana, and the sudden burst of energy leaves Ashel shocked. Ashel is shocked to see his opponent's power. Our hero decides to end things here. He unlocks the other realm and puts Lunav down. Lumendel warns Ashel against his opponent's power. Our hero puts his friends down and tells Lem that he now plans to kill his brother. Lem asks if revenge is really important for him to take on a curse because our hero doesn't know the state he's in. He warns our hero that he'll have to pay a price worse than death for the seal on his chest. The sword now realizes that this was always our hero's plan. When planning this whole thing, our protagonist wondered if Lunav would appear if he fought. He asked Karam to bring her to him. Karam wondered how our hero is so sure that she will come, and he answers that she'll come because she's a stalker. Our hero leaves the princess and Lunav to the demonic scripters. Lem realizes that the prophecy has come true as he watches the pawns fight each other. As our hero raises his demonic sword, he feels something different about his opponent. He realizes that Ashel's powerful god can no longer protect him. Meanwhile, Lamella uses her glare slash to cut through the demonic monsters. She's surprised to see that the monsters have stopped regenerating, which makes them realize their link has been cut off. Dean Kundal walks in, thinking that the monster's power source must have disappeared, and feels glad to see his students okay. However, Seth came to help his friend during his exams, and Dean suspended him for 2 months. Lamella sees the portal to the other realm, thinking that it's the cause for the destruction. She wonders if something can be done about it. The Dean takes a closer look and sees Aaron and Lunav passed out. He rushes to them and finds them okay. He heals them with his magic, wondering if they were sent to the other realm on purpose. Dean Kundal realizes that Cyan must have created this realm and wonders what is going on. On the other hand, Ashel is surprised to see himself bleeding. Lundell warns him that his opponent can even devour light now, and he might die for underestimating his opponent. Our hero asks Karam how he feels about this change, and Karam answers that he feels so powerful that he wants to destroy everything. So our hero allows Karam to utilize his power. He uses his Dance of Blood, second form Harvester. Ashel uses his Halobringer. Our protagonist uses his Fog Sword and cuts through the attack. A ray of mana rains down at the darkness. Ashel, still confident that he can defeat his opponent, attacks Cyan. Our protagonist uses his demonic sword manifestation and suddenly teleports behind his opponent. He uses his Fog Sword, Halo, and strikes Ashel from the back. As Ashel withers in pain on the ground, our hero enjoys his enemy's misery. To end his brother's ill fate, he takes a final swing. As the chaotic mana rains down on him, Ashel remembers his mother telling him that he was fated to be the savior. She claimed to receive an oracle from God when birthing him, and said that her son was blessed with so much talent. Ashel's mother was killed in front of him by those who called her a witch. People who were responsible were caught and executed, and that was the only time he had seen his father so mad. His father executed the people himself, but that was still not enough. Ashel believed that evil things should be cleansed from the roots. Poor people or people with inferior genes were those who could fall easily to evil because they would threaten those who had everything, like his mother. However, in his last moment, Ashel realized that it was he who was inferior. Cyan uses his demonic sword union, the God Eater, and lands his final blow. The mana rains down on his enemy, and Ashel screams in pain as the mana decimates him. As he lies defeated, Ashel asks our hero a question. He always saw Cyan act as if he knew the future. He found the Holy Sword and the Demonic Sword first, and ruined his brother's plans with the Banquet of Blood. Ashel wonders why his brother had always hated him. Our hero tells his brother that he knows he must be wishing that he had killed his brother when he noticed the potential. He always hated Ashel's thinking. Ashel asks his brother if they were ever close. In his past life, our hero and his brother were close, but Ashel threw it all away. Cyan walks away thinking that it's over. But then, the Holy Sword speaks up. The demonic sword tells our hero that he made a huge mistake by using the demonic scriptures to take the sword's power and warns him that a worse pain will rain down on him. Meanwhile, a man in the hood tells Nana that the dark fog has swallowed the light. Nana tries to fight Brian for her father's safety. The hooded man sees them ignore him like our hero always does. Nana attacks Brian, insisting that she has to go to help her papa. Brian tries to convince her to wait, reminding her that the young master was worried about them. Right then, a woman walks in and tells Nana to sit down. Nana calmly sits down, and the woman tells them again that the black fog has swallowed the light. She knows that there might be a reason why Nana is so aggressive and decides to take her to go check up on our hero. On the other hand, the Holy Sword destroys the other realm. Karam feels that the power is too much and starts to lose his form. Our hero tells Karam to return to the sword. He feels something strange about the seal. The other realm starts to disappear, and suddenly, huge light explosions come down from the sky. From the light emerge the Giants of Light, and they take our hero along with them. Aaron slowly gains consciousness and sees our protagonist being taken away. This was the last memory of our hero that she had. The Giants of Light disappeared fast, and Prince Lunel and Ashel were also missing. The Knights of Light were arrested for going out of line, and the incident that could cause a revolution was stopped. However, Brno, a center of trade, was now turned to ashes. Meanwhile, Arin wakes up back in her palace, worried about Cyan. Laximus informs her that Lunav has recovered already, and Cyan is missing along with Luanel and Ashel. Arin feels upset that she couldn't protect her fiancé, and Laximus starts crying that he wasn't with the princess. Arin consoles him that he had other things to do and asks him how it went. He explains that the king is a lot worse than they thought. Viliarth stands by the king's side, feeling sorry for being late. He feels like he neglected his children while only focusing on the front lines. He's upset that his first son used the Knights of Light for his personal use, and the youngest became the worst murderer of the era. Viliart feels that he would have made up for his mistakes with his life if the king hadn't given him the duties. Ulkin tries to console him, but Viliart thinks of himself as the worst father ever. He blames himself for neglecting his children after their mother's death, thinking that they would learn to be independent. But instead, the two sons made different choices. One chose glory, and the other sought his own growth. As a result, Brno ends up in ruins, and his family's bloodline is at risk. Viliarth asks about Alice. Ulkin answers that no one has seen her after the northern gates, and Kraz has gotten into religion and become a monk. Right then, Violet walks in, thanking Ulkin and Viliarth for their service to the king, and tells them that she's brought medicine for him, hoping that the king recovers soon. But the king doesn't seem to show any results. Viliart is impressed by Violet bringing her father's medicine by herself. She pretends to care for the king, wishing for his quick recovery. But after Viliarth and Ulkin leave her alone, she makes the king drink her so-called medicine to put him to sleep forever and rule the empire herself. It turns out that she killed Luanel first. At the battlefield, Luanel was heavily injured, feeling humiliated that they couldn't even kill one kid. Violet tells the guards to look for the injured in the area. He sees her and screams for help. Violet walks up to him and tells him that she has to clean up her brother's mess. Luanel orders her to take him to the palace to get treatment, but Violet refuses to do that. Instead, she plans to clean up after killing him and just tell everyone she couldn't find his corpse. Luanel screams helplessly, but the guards obey her call and kill him on the spot. Back at the palace, Viliarth and Ulkin are both suspicious of Violet's medicine. Ulkin finds her medicine's color and the bottle's shape similar to the elixir Marchand's Sanctification, but he finds the mana very similar to what he felt in the demonic realm. Viliart orders Ulkin to keep an eye on Violet, and strictly tells him to make reports no matter how busy it gets at the front lines. He refuses to let Aaron's security be at risk. After the incident in Brno that killed so many people, everyone worked together to reconstruct the estate. Prince Luanel and Ashel were reported missing, and there were so many rumors of what happened. However, people remember it a bit differently. They believe that Luanel and Ashel died trying to stop Cyan, who went crazy from an evil power. The people saw the battle clearly. They saw how pathetic Ashel looked with the heavenly wings, and how the demon called Cyan took him down. At the end, Cyan brought down the rage of the heavens and met his death at the hands of the Divine's missionaries. To stabilize the chaos in the empire, Violet took over the throne in her father's place, who had grown too weak. Everyone could agree on that decision thanks to Violet's charity work. Arin knew a different story than that, but she chose to stay quiet because she believed that her silence was the only way to protect our hero, whom she believed was still alive. At the Lewin Academy Great Hall, Erin chooses the magical text as her path. Sarika hands over the diploma to Erin and announces her graduation from Lewin Academy. Dean Kundal is surprised to see that Erin chose the magical text instead of the sword or wand. It's been 3 years since the incident, and Princess Erin has been searching for clues on the Giants of Light. Kundal explains that the Giants of Light are called Nephilim, and they are missionaries of light sent by Lumendel. Sarika is confused, wondering why Lumendel would intervene directly, and Dean has no clue why. There are no records that can tell whether Nephilim are gods or humans. Kundal tells Sarika that Aaron has still decided to stay in the academy because of Kyan and asks if he's okay. Meanwhile, Aaron visits Lunav. The two catch up, and Lunav informs Aaron that President Regans is doing better, but he still has internal wounds to recover from. Aaron thinks she must be worried, but Lunav feels satisfied to have taught Regans a lesson. Lunav asks about the progress on finding Tyan. Aaron explains that he's trying, but she has found nothing except that the Giants of Light are called the Nephilim. The two compete amongst each other to find Cyan first. Meanwhile, the Nephilim hold Cyan hostage for crossing a line that no creation of a god is allowed to cross. As a result, our hero has no right to continue living in the world that they will descend upon. As a punishment, they rain down suffering on our hero that no human can ever experience. Our protagonist takes a leap and lands an attack, but the Nephilim just recover. He then takes another swing and uses his Void Sphere division. However, his power is useless before the gods. As Cyan lands back on his feet, Seth steps in. The Nephilim punches our hero and sends him flying. As Kundal holds up a barrier, he feels a strong aura from just the existence of the gods, and he realizes that he can't leave Lunav and Aaron here. Suddenly, the Nephilim are shocked as Seth starts to transform, and our hero introduces the sand goddess Sabalom. The goddess threatens to teach them a lesson for laying their hands on her successor. Sabalom tells our hero that the prophecy has been fulfilled, and orders our hero to get out, because he can't win against the gods right now. Our hero asks why she's helping him and how it could benefit her. But Sabalum doesn't want benefits because she just needs our hero to keep his promise. Qian is confused, not remembering the promise. The goddess reminds him that he promised to kill the gods and whoever got in his way. Our hero is shocked to realize that the goddess took his promise. She hurries him to leave because she can't hold on for so long. The Nephilim try to attack Cyan, but suddenly Nana jumps in to protect him. As she fights against the gods, our hero tells her that he ordered her to wait. However, Nana wants to help him. Our hero wonders who brought her here, and right then, his hallmaster walks in. She orders everyone to protect the successor, but our hero knows they can't hold off. However, she knows our hero can't even move. Cyan realizes he can't fool the hallmaster. He can't move a finger, and Karam is sleeping too. The hallmaster orders Nana to go. Nana picks our hero up and makes a run for it. They open a portal and escape through it. After our hero and his friends escape, Kundal wonders what he's supposed to do with the giants. Suddenly, the Nephilim start to disappear too. Seeing how they all disappeared after Cyan left, the Dean thinks there must be a seal on our hero, and he realizes that he can't be exposed to the public even if he's framed as a traitor to the Empire. Meanwhile, at Ushif Empire Palace's conference room, Violet tells her council that she's going to introduce a mage who will help them. Everyone is surprised, thinking that Kundal has agreed to help them. However, when Violet asked Kundal, he refused to help her in her ambition. He strictly warned Violet to let Aaron and Cyan alone, and assured her he doesn't care how she writes the story of the incident. Violet knows the old mage doesn't change his mind and assures her men that she found a perfect candidate. Everyone is suddenly surprised to see the mage because they all thought he was dead, but then Boris walks in and greets everyone. Violet informs them that he came back from Demon Cyan. She tells them that Boris is an 8th-ranked mana user, perfect as the royal mage. As Boris shows gratitude, Violet is shocked to see someone behind him. But suddenly, the image disappears, and she apologizes to her council and starts talking about business. Meanwhile, Luinel, in Boris's body, laughs at them for being fooled by his appearance and measuring his level. He finds this body easier to manipulate than other human bodies. He asks Duran Dark why he didn't get anything. Duran Dark gets angry because getting his powers was all she could do. She stares at her sword, regretting that the prophecy didn't go as they wished, but feeling glad that they got their powers back. For their next move, they both are still thinking about whether to find a new owner for the holy sword to cut through the fog covering the light or to summon. In the other dimension, our hero stops his training for the day. After 3 years, the exiled god's hypnosis on his brand is showing its effect, but once he's out of this dimension, it'll be over in a few days. However, our hero can't stay any longer, otherwise his body will give up. The exiled god asks what he intends to do because if he leaves, the Nephilim will return again. Our protagonist plans to kill the great god Lumendel. However, Karam reminds our hero that he should be planning something like that after defeating the god in exile. He agrees that our hero couldn't even defeat the exiled god in 3 years. The beings he fought in the past life were at best superhumans, and what he plans to face are those who can oppose gods, and for that, the powers of an exiled god are not enough to face them all. Our protagonist realizes that the exiled god is giving real advice and asks for suggestions. The exiled god suggests a path using a spell passed down since ancient times. He continues throwing knives at the map and after a while, finally lands on the right spot. He tells his cheers excitedly and tells his heir to accept the prophecy with gratitude. Meanwhile, Dean Kundal tells Sarika to take care of Aaron because she has been locked up in her room for 3 years and collecting ancient tomes. He worries that she might end up finding Cyan. Sarika knocks at the door. Aaron answers the door. Sarika greets her and tells her she assumed Leximus would answer the door. Aaron tells her that Leximus is off to another chore and asks why she's here. Sarika tells her that she's come to offer her help, but Aaron insists on being alone. Sarika tells her that she'll need help to find Cyan. Aaron suddenly opens the door and lets her guest in. Sarika notices the symbol on the board. Aaron answers that she found it reading about the continent's forgotten past, and found out that it was always accompanied by the mentions of the Giants of Light. She asks Sarika if she recognizes the symbol. Sarika, remembering it on our hero's chest, lies that she has never seen it. She realizes that the princess has found out more than they expected. Aaron then adds that the Giants of Light in Brno called Nephilims are the children of the great god Lumendel, and they are also known as wardens. She wonders why they would attack our hero simply because of judgment. She wonders if it had something to do with the mist that Cyan was involved in. She believes that Eru is involved, which is why Lumendel stepped in, which means Cyan wasn't judged. She suspects that he must be hiding in the powers of the mist. Sarika is shocked seeing the princess nearly find the answers. Aaron thinks that Sarika must have something to add because she was close to Cyan. Sarika sees Aaron's gaze and thinks she's jealous of her. Sarika tells the princess that she wasn't very close to Cyan and deep down gets angry at our hero. Meanwhile, at Eastern Fruina, the little girl stands under the tree. As she learns that the intense light will remain in the world once the black mist lifts, she wonders if such a world is even possible. After quite some time, our hero visits Sarika's lab. He remembers the first time he came to her in this life and she tried to kill him by poisoning his tea. As our hero remembers the good old days, he senses someone sneaking up on him. As the attacker takes a swing at him without being noticed, our hero dodges the attack and realizes that only Sarika can do that. Our hero and his hallmaster give each other a violent greeting, and Sarika decides to test out his improvements during the 3 years he spent away. Our protagonist plays along and uses his void sphere division. The giant spheres destroy everything in the room. Sarika warns him to be careful with his mentor's lab and takes a swing at him. Our hero retaliates and the two attacks collide. Lunav in her room feels our hero's presence, and Lem confirms her doubt. After 3 years, it is finally time, and Lunav feels eager to meet Kayan. However, her excitement makes even the demon scripture scared of her. Kundal feels the disturbance in his office, and he too realizes that our hero has returned. Seeing the mess around her lab makes Sarika realize that her disciple has really improved. She confronts our hero for the destruction of her lab, but he protests that she started it. She then asks if Eru permitted him to come out. Our protagonist answers that he just left because Eru's powers keep the seal hidden for a day. He explains that he's been roaming around all day and tells her that he got tired of hiding. The sky slowly lightens up, and Sarika stares silently at our hero for a moment. She gets angry at him for coming out and forces him to go back and pushes him back into the portal. Sarika gives Cyan a beating for leaving the zone while Eru watches. He gets tired of seeing them create a mess and tells them to stop. But Sarika yells at him to shut up too and blames him for not keeping Cyan back. Eru feels his authority as God Shatter. Our hero speaks up that he now realizes that he can't stay outside for more than a day. Sarika sees the seal heal back up and realizes that it can be covered. However, since it's a powerful god seal, the effect only lasts for a day. Sarika gets close to our hero and tells him that he's almost a man now. Karam gets angry and punches her in the face for flirting with him. Right then, Iru gives our hero the oracle and tells him to go to the eastern lands, Furwina, to find the prophet who awaits him. Our protagonist ignores his call, remembering the blind darts he kept throwing at the wall. Right then, Eru shoots him, shocking Sarika. Eru tells our hero that he couldn't completely cover the seal as he was 3 years ago, but now he has fulfilled the conditions. Now, the cover should last for 2 weeks, which still isn't enough to go to Furwina, but it's better than a day. He reminds Cyan that his death will come again once the 2 weeks are up, and tells him to find the prophet to change his fate. Seeing Eru's authoritative voice, our hero now actually sees him as a god. However, that pisses him off. Meanwhile, in the Luan Eastern region, a guard feels eager to go home, and the other man tells him to not complain so much. He reminds the young guard that it's for the good of the Garam Association. The young guard says that not a soul comes here ever since the incident with President Reigans, but the old man reminds him that they can't ignore the vast magic network system and risk the resources falling into the hands of Ushif or other forces. Suddenly, they see our hero standing in front of them, asking for the warp gate. The guards realize that their opponent is not an ordinary person and draw their swords out. The guard considers letting his hidden powers out and tells our hero that he's responsible for his fate next. However, a moment later, the guards are knocked out, and our protagonist walks in through the gate. The warp gate is an artifact that Reigen's Rainreaver often used. It will be our hero's first time in this life to see it. It's his only way to go to Furwina and back in just 2 weeks. Karam feels the mana leaking from the artifact. Our protagonist explains that something like this didn't exist 3 centuries ago. If an energy source with concentrated mana provides energy, then the mana paths made with runes complete the spell. Karam is impressed with humans' ability to find shortcuts. Our hero sets his destination to north of Furwina. The warp gate opens the gate and a gate opens. Our hero opens the door and sees Furwina on the other end of it. Our protagonist walks through the gate and asks Karam if he's ever been to Furwina. Karam explains that he's been here before with her past owner. Suddenly, they both smell blood, and our hero gets ready for action. Meanwhile, the guards report the intruder at the gate and tell their boss that the intruder was covering his face, but an ominous mist covered him all around. The boss asks the guards how the invader smelled, confusing the guards. She then asks where the warp gate was connected to, and the guards answer that it was connected to Eastern Furwina's northern gates. She tells them that she knows who it is and goes to visit the warp gate. However, in Furwina, our hero sees the dead bodies everywhere, and he wonders why the holy knights and white elves would have fought. Karam accepts that Eru gave them a right oracle, and our hero feels like the cause of the battle is the place in front of him. Our protagonist walks into the cave. Karam warns him to not get lost in the layout. After walking straight in a while, our hero still ends up back at the entrance. He realizes that he doesn't feel any mana either. Karam realizes that it's sorcery because it's the elves' territory. Our hero picks up some rocks and throws them at the wall to check. The rocks hit the wall, revealing the location. Our hero takes his fog sword and hits it at the ruins, revealing the actual path. With the path revealed, our hero can now feel the mana, but he feels something strange about it. Karam explains that it's a divine tree where the past begins at the roots and the future concludes in the leaves. The tree is where everything regarding the world is recorded. Back at the tree, the elf kid realizes that the barrier is broken, which only means that its guards have been killed. She takes the knife to protect others and places it against her throat. Suddenly, our hero breaks her knife with a blow and asks her to explain why the humans are after this place. The elf kid walks down from the tree and walks up to our hero, making him wonder what she wants from him. She grabs his hand and tells him that he's going to die soon. Our protagonist is surprised to see her recognize him. She explains that she's the divine tree's prophet, Hastia, and asks him if he's here by following the oracle. Our hero is shocked and realizes that the humans are after this place because they want Hastia's prophecy powers to know the future. Meanwhile, the Saintess's direct affiliate guard knight, Mihan Harcelis, reaches Fruina. He sees the guards and the enemies all dead and orders his men to tell everyone that it's safe. Seeing the blood everywhere, he tries to keep his armor clean, but seeing the enemies and allies all dead, he feels that someone must be alive. Right then, the Saintess walks in and assures him that the divine mission guided by Lumendel will end with their victory. Mihan assures the Saintess that he's faithful. The Saintess leaves him to take care of things outside and assures him everything will be all right. Suddenly, she realizes that the barrier has been broken. An elf's sorcery runes are unbreakable by a human, so she thinks that a non-human entity must be in the cave. She hurries inside to stop the intruder from taking the prophet and orders her men to wait outside, while an elf watches them from a distance. Meanwhile, Hastia feels upset that the ones protecting the entrance died because of her. Our hero wonders if holding hands is necessary when talking. Hastia explains that it's a curse called Divine Tree's Silence. In exchange for seeing the future, her voice was taken from her. So, they have no choice even if our hero is not comfortable. Suddenly, someone walks into the cave, and the prophet recognizes the intruder. She explains that this woman is the one who chased her here, and ordered her men to kill all the elves who protected the entrance. The Saintess apologizes for killing everyone and says that it wouldn't have happened if Hastia had agreed to go with her. She asks the prophet if she wants to go with her now to avoid more casualties. Our hero steps forward, and the Saintess introduces herself as Nephrodite Iris, the Saintess of Lumendel. She feels that it's a day of glory to have met our hero in a place like this. Our protagonist is surprised to see that the Saintess knows him and decides to test out her power. As he takes a leap to attack her, Iris extends her hand. Our hero recognizes the symbol on her hand. As he draws out his sword, he's surprised. Karam thinks the seal is activating early, but then he realizes that it's not his seal, but that Iris has the same one on her hand. The Saintess summons the emissaries of light to take away the dark fog. The Nephilim attack our hero, and while they fight, the Saintess grabs Hastia to take her away. She now realizes that they need to touch in order to talk. Suddenly, Hastia is surprised to see that the Saintess is an elf, and asks why she's betraying her own kind. Iris tells her that she wants her prophecy powers. Our hero falls to his knees after the battle, and Karam informs him that the Saintess took Hastia. The light emissaries stand above him. Our protagonist gets angry for having his plans ruined. He takes a swing and breaks their shield apart, and instead of dying an easy death, he decides to fight the Nephilim. Meanwhile, Iris walks out with the elf prophet. Hastia asks her if the prophecy power is really worth so much that she's willing to kill her own people and warns her that she'll lose her voice. However, the Saintess remains true to Lumendel's mission. Hastia then tells her that she's going to die. The Saintess thinks she's trying to get him scared, but the elf kid explains that it's a prophecy, a future she saw. Suddenly, Iris hears someone scream at the end of the cave. She runs to find Mihan struggling. Mihan tells her to stay back. He uses his Holy Stroke Vigilante to attack his opponent, but the intruder pulls a giant boulder before him to block the attack. A giant stone effortlessly blocks Mihan's spear. He's impressed at first, but then realizes Garnian simply stomped the ground and raised the earth to stop the strike. Mihan can hardly believe someone can do that. Mihan introduces himself and asks for Garnian's name. Garnian shoots back, asking why he'd bother introducing himself to a dead man. Mihan knows elves usually rely on bows and magic, while barely any bother training their bodies or becoming warriors. Curious, he asks Garnian what skill he used to block that attack, since it sure didn't look like magic. Garnian says it was magic. Mihan points out he didn't sense any mana at all. Garnian insists it was definitely magic. Meanwhile, Mihan notices Garnian's ears drooping suspiciously, making the whole answer feel pretty sketchy. Just then, Iris jumps in and reveals that Garnian can't use magic at all. Despite that, he's known as the strongest warrior of the White Elf clan, a recluse who lives deep in the frozen valleys. Seeing him here is surprising enough. Garnian is in no mood for introductions. Pointing at Iris, he demands to know if she's the ringleader and orders her to hand over the prophet. Iris quickly explains that she's only God's messenger, but Garnian readies a punch. He declares that there's no need to learn the name of someone who's about to die. Mihan immediately warns Iris to watch out, but she suddenly pulls a dagger to Hestia's throat. She then threatens Garnian, saying that if he kills her, she can't guarantee the prophet's safety either. The threat works. Garnian stops at once. Burning with rage, he snaps his own dagger in half and calls the situation pointless. The threat didn't work. Mihan can only stare in shock. Garnian just crushed solid steel with nothing but raw strength. With a cold glare, Garnian warns Iris that she's going to die regardless. Iris starts sweating heavily under the pressure. Hestia then asks what she's waiting for instead of running away. Iris loosens her grip and takes off. As she runs, she tells Mihan to handle things here while she goes to request reinforcements from Lord Rumendel. Mihan is shocked as she is not going for reinforcements. She's running away in pure panic. Garnian says the same thing, and Mihan immediately snaps back that he already knows, so he can stop repeating it. Then Mihan boldly steps forward. He declares that he doesn't need reinforcements because he wants to challenge the strongest warrior of the White Elf clan. He starts introducing himself as the strongest spear of the Knights of Light and a disciple of Grandmaster Duke Wallace. Unfortunately, Garnian couldn't care less. Before Mihan can finish his grand introduction, Garnian drives a fist straight into his stomach. Mihan can only curse his luck as he's attacked mid-speech. The punch launches him high into the air, cutting the introduction short in the most painful way possible. With Mihan out of the way, the savage elf turns toward the supposed ringleader and orders Iris to stop right there. Iris is drenched in sweat. Mihan, a man who was full of confidence, didn't even last a moment against this monster. Then she crashes right into our boy, who happens to be chasing after her. Casually carrying the severed head of a Nephilim, he asks why she's always in such a hurry. That only makes Iris panic more. She quickly asks what happened to the Nephilim and wonders if Cyan really defeated God's Sentry. Cyan apologizes, but says he never believed it was a real Nephilim to begin with. Now Iris is sweating even harder. She asks how her Nephilim could possibly be fake. Cyan explains that if it was real, it was an incredibly poor imitation. Its equipment broke far too easily, and it couldn't even regenerate after losing its head. He then suggests that if she's going to copy something, she should at least do a better job. Iris is left stunned. She can't understand how the power granted to her by Rumendel could be nothing more than a fake. Karam can tell that Iris was completely clueless the whole time, but then she suddenly calls Cyan's words blasphemy. A strange pattern appears on her glove, and she declares that she'll prove her power by doing it again. She never gets the chance. Before she can activate anything, our boy drops her with a clean kick and knocks her out cold. Grabbing her by the arm, he prepares to take her away for questioning. Then a new problem appears. Hestia suddenly clings to him, and Cyan realizes he almost forgot she was there. She's in tears, saying she was terrified because of the Titan earlier, but now she's relieved to see him unharmed. Unfortunately, the trouble isn't over. Garnian suddenly appears behind Cyan at ridiculous speed and throws a kick. Cyan narrows his eyes and tells him to back off, but Garnian attacks anyway. Cyan blocks the kick with one arm. Even so, he's forced backward. In fact, he's sent sliding across the ground. His arm trembles slightly as he realizes something alarming. Garnian pushed him back using nothing but raw strength. Seriously, what kind of elf is this guy? Garnian demands that Cyan hand Iris over. Before things escalate, Hestia jumps between them and insists that Cyan isn't an enemy. Only then does Garnian take a closer look. He realizes the person he's attacking is Cyan Verte and asks if he's related to that child. That single question catches Cyan completely off guard. Cyan wonders if this muscle dude just hinted at his big sister Alice. Later, in the elf town, an elderly elf introduces himself as Elfuis. Elfu thanks our boy and welcomes him to the town. He tells our boy to make himself comfortable here, but the way Hestia is glued to our hero's hand, our guy suspects the invitation was meant for her. He asks Hestia what's up with that clinging, and she drops the bomb that he literally has to touch her to hear her speak. Garnian suddenly butts in just to call our boy rude. Our assassin immediately turns to Garnian and asks how he can hear Hestia. Garnian then reveals he received a blessing of foresight from Hestia, which makes him superior to Cyan. Elfu steps in to cool things down, saying Elder Garnian might sound rough, but it's his way of welcoming Cyan. Our buddy clearly isn't buying that, so Elfu respectfully adds that outsiders almost never show up in Elfland, so Cyan can understand the bluntness. Our guy asks about the Saintess. Elfu says he will ask why she stabbed them in the back. Scene cuts to two guards outside a massive cell. Inside, the Saintess sits chained. Elfu walks up and skips betrayal, asking about Cyan Verte. He wants to know why Cyan showed up against her. The Saintess answers with silence. Meanwhile, in the restroom, Karam senses something is off. She asks our boy why he let Elfu meet the Saintess first. My guy shrugs and adds that the Saintess, a key figure of the Night of Light, is a white elf, so it only makes sense her own kind gets the first look. Karam shifts back to human form and pushes the unease. She flops onto his master and casually drops a bomb. Nephilim was fake and had a creepy dark skeleton in its head that looked like an ancient giant, like a puppet. That gets our hero up fast. His mind starts racing with bad ideas, and now both of them are on the same page. Something feels very off. Back in the cell, Elfu repeats the claim and asks if Cyan is Black Fog. He finds it odd that the one who crushed Rumendel was that outsider. He asks if this follows the Oracle plan. The Saintess replies that even a short while ago she believed it, and never doubted the voice she heard was Lord Rumendel's. She turns her spellcasting hand as she says she is no longer sure. Garnian tells her it is too late for excuses. She has already killed countless of their kin. Elfu asks why she is called Nephrodite when no white elf uses that name. Elfu demands her true name. The saintess is about to reveal her true name, then a voice speaks to her. I hereby bestow upon you a new prophecy. Her eyes widen as it calls her name. Elfu wonders if she's okay because her face has certainly turned pale. Out of nowhere, a surge of mana slams into them, so Garnian snaps at everyone to stand back. The voice commands the saintess to kill. The eyes on her hand glows and she summons a giant skeleton, forcing Garnian to pull back. The monster is so big the huge cell breaks with its explosive force. However, Garnian still maintains a composter, but the skeleton beast mere arm is the size of the entire door. The summoned beast is a boss-level titan. It roars to scare the enemies, but Elfu commands Garnian not to get distracted and save the townspeople. Right then, the building started to crack. Garnian curses as it starts crumbling. One huge boulder is about to fall off a few folks, but Garnian pops out of nowhere and lifts it up with sheer strength. Everyone starts to evacuate and Elfu presses them to move fast. Meanwhile, the Titan is asking for the Prophet's direction, but it sees no one. It plans to destroy the whole place to force her to come out. Before he begins, a fog blade slices its head in one sonic strike. Then an attack of 8 fluttering petals completely subdued the Titan, and of course, it's Cyan. He made a boss look like it was spawned by mistake. Historia feels the building shake and runs outside, sensing a huge surge of mana. She freezes at the sight of an ancient giant barely functioning and wonders what happened to Sir Cyan. Meanwhile, our lad is fully convinced the Saintess will not summon that useless Titan again. Karam points out that summoning a beast in such a tight space is basically suicide. Our boy wonders if the Saintess is even alive, then realizes she is since he can still feel that nasty holy power. Karam questions what could push her this far, and our boy says she just wanted the Prophet that badly. Karam then adds that if she went this extreme, even risking her own life, someone must be pulling the strings. So our boy heads straight to the Saintess and asks if it is the same bastard they are thinking of. When she does not answer, he nudges her to get up and realizes she is still alive. She barely opens her eyes. Our hero leans in and tells her to speak and name the bastard who gave her that fake giant. Answer him and he will make her death less painful. She finally says her real name, Neria. Our hero just scoffs like who even asked for that. The Saintess goes on. 100 years ago, she was a prophet candidate chosen by the divine tree. She believed she wanted it more than anyone, but failed in the end. That failure broke her, so she left the frozen land and wandered. She got tricked and sold as a slave again and again, and kept running until she met a group of armored men, the Holy Knights of Rumendell. Around then, she started hearing divine prophecies, and became a saintess after a blessing appeared on her hand. Our boy calls it all fake, just a setup to sell some holy dream and stretch her life like a tool. He grabs her hair and says he only cares about the voice she hears. That shocks her. He tells her that voice is no oracle. She asks what it is supposed to be. Our hero switches his tone and tells Boris to quit hiding and show himself already. The Saintess almost gets chills. Suddenly, a man appears lounging on a throne. He says, as expected, you never disappoint, Black Fog Tyan Verde. Then he casually drops that Boris is already dead, and he is far older. Our hero is confused. The ancient guy just snaps his fingers and says they will meet soon and he will be waiting. Suddenly, the glow in the Saintess' eyes fades as she screams in pain and then collapses to the ground. She dies just like that. But the real concern is the ancient being our boy knows nothing about. Our hero asks her if she knows anything. Right then, Hastia comes sprinting over and she latches onto our boy, thanking he is still alive. She admits she was honestly worried something could have gone wrong with him. Soon after, Elfu arrives too and says he now feels even more indebted and thanks again. Hastia says they both did well, adding that it is actually comforting that the two of them are elders of their kin. Garnian drops his usual comment, and this time our hero interrupts, asking Hastia how Garnian is even able to understand her. She explains that Sir Garnian is her guardian, the warrior who is chosen to protect a prophet. Guardians are granted a blessing that allows them to communicate with the prophet even from a distance, known as the blessing of foresight. That same blessing also helps the guardian onto the path they are meant to take. Our guy thinks for a moment, then says he does not fully get it but still wants to become a guardian. She pauses and asks if Chayan means he wants to be her guardian. Garnian cuts in at once and shuts it down hard. Chayan fires back, asking who he is to decide when it should be the prophet's call. Garnian says this is not something a human decides on a whim. Our guy just stares at him. Garnian tells him to come along, done arguing. Even Elfu quietly says it is better to follow stubborn Garnian. As our guy follows him, they end up at a frozen lake tucked in the middle of the mountains. Garnian tells him this is where he trained, guided by the blessing of foresight. The test is simple, beat him. Our boy scoffs and calls it easy, saying no matter the rules, he is still winning. Garnian gets irritated and moves in instantly, attacking without hesitation. Just as he closes the distance, our boy shifts back. He leans his body just enough to slip past the strike. One hand touches the ice for balance, and in the same motion, he drives his leg straight into Garnian's gut. Garnian takes the hit and feels the pain, but still pulls back for a punch. Our boy quickly realizes this guy just absorbed that kick. In the very next moment, Garnian's punch crashes down and shatters the ice. But it hits nothing. Our boy is already gone. The frozen lake cracks. Garnian is left sweating, realizing Tyann dodged it clean. What he does not realize yet is that Tyann is already above him, ready to drop the next hit. Tyann deliberately throws a lighter punch at Garnian's face, though it still smashes the ground apart with explosive force. Garnian asks if Tyann pulled that punch on purpose, figuring a direct hit would have straight up killed him. Looking at the massive crater in the lake, he admits Tyann has clearly gone past the limits of a normal human. Then he half-seriously wonders if Tyann is planning to go around killing gods next. But our boy brushes that aside and simply asks if that settles it, if he is now the better pick for the guardian role. Not long after, the prophet officially declares him her guardian. She sits on her divine tree and starts casting the spell, but nothing happens, and our boy gets annoyed that he cannot hear a thing. Hastia turns to him and asks if he can hear her now. Tyann says yes, and she confirms that from this moment on, he is her official guardian. But instead of reacting properly, our boy casually asks about tomorrow's weather. That completely throws her off and she just stares, confused. He repeats the question and she admits she has no idea about the weather. Our guy instantly concludes that foresight might not be all that impressive after all. Hastia tries to recover, saying she can at least predict snowstorms and heavy rain. But our boy is clearly not convinced and starts thinking becoming a guardian might not help him much. Right then, Hastia says to follow the goddess of water, claiming his path will reveal itself there. She just got this prophecy from the divine tree, but our boy already turns away and tells her not to just say whatever pops into her head. She nearly breaks down, begging him to believe her. Then she adds that the tree mentioned someone from his family waiting there after many years. That finally makes him pause. This time our boy actually believes it, because that can only mean one person, his sister, Lady Alice. Then our boy calls out, asking about his sister Alice. He wants to know where she is. Elfu explains that after she left for the temple of Lady Aquentis, there has been no contact at all. Our guy double-checks if Aquentis is the goddess of water. Elfu nods and says the goddess lives somewhere in Fruina, guiding water spirits. But her identity is hidden behind a veil, so no one actually knows where her temple is. Our hero then turns to his so-called prophet and asks if she knows anything. As expected, she just stands there blank again. Tyann straight up calls her useless, and that immediately pushes her into tears. Karam says she knows the location. When he asks for details, she just tells him to follow her. Our boy narrows his eyes, already wondering what she is up to. Still, he says his farewells to the elves and leaves with her while Hastia can only watch him go. As they walk, he glances back and sees the elf town slowly vanish under camouflage magic. Karam says they've reached the spot, and our guy feels the temple is oddly similar to where Karam was sealed. Anyway, he placed his hand and the stones started to shake. They start to join in until a fancy door gets into shape right in the middle of nowhere. Right then, Hastia comes, yelling for our boy to stay. She tells him they need to stick together, and she needs something to confirm. Karam appears in her human form and goes straight to scare this lil prophet. Hastia started weeping and shaking in horror, wondering if this scary lady is the true form of a demon blade. Karam makes even menacing faces to scare her away. Meanwhile, our boy just reaches the door, leaving them behind. They immediately beg him to wait and run behind him. Inside the maze, the paths twist endlessly until Hastia says to follow the water to find the way. Tyann doubts her, so she insists she is a prophet, which only reminds him she cannot even predict the weather. While they argue, Karam just stands there like a glitched NPC since she cannot hear Hastia at all. They reach the waterfall and it is way bigger than expected. The entrance sits on the other side, but there is still no path across. Then our boy suddenly warns them about incoming danger. Hastia tenses up while Karam cracks her knuckles ready to throw hands. In the swirling water, a red-eyed monster glides below. It rises and towers over them, clearly trying to flex its ridiculous size. Our boy asks what this thing is, and Hastia says it is the ruins guardian of the relic serpent. Meanwhile, Karam is already stretching like she has been waiting all day to fight. She summons her sword and says this will not take long. The serpent locks onto her and gives chase. Its long body helps it hound Karam nonstop. But she knows it's slow, so she swings her fog blade and slices off its tail in one clean move. Then another slash takes out its venomous fangs. The serpent drops its guard and ends up getting its whole body stabbed and battered. As it collapses, Karam still wants smoke, so she starts hitting it with sharp words. The relic serpent basically begs her to stop spitting venom after already winning. Then our boy walks in, asking the serpent if it saw any women come here. Karam feels Tyann just hijacked her moment. The serpent tries acting tough and loyal, but a solid beating from our boy fixes that fast, and it spills about an outsider who came here recently. Tyann asks why she came. This time the serpent admits it has no clue, and practically begs Tyann not to beat it again. Our hero beats it anyway, making Hastia see him as her ultimate guardian. When Tyann goes to threaten the poor thing again, a voice cuts him off. It's her guardian asking how he even found a place no human should reach. Hastia speaks up, calling her Lady Marianne. The name makes our guy think he might have just run into someone rare and actually worth the hype. Marianne steps forward and says it's her first time meeting Tyann, but wonders why he feels familiar. All our boy knows is she's the elemental dragon of Fruina, ruler of spirits and the strongest of the ancient dragons. My guy knows she's wrong since they already met in his past life when he entered Fruina searching for Karam. She kicked Cyan out back then. He still remembers her exact words and honestly didn't expect to see her again. While Marianne and Hastia greet each other, Karam starts shaking. Our hero wonders what just happened, but she steadies herself and points at Marianne, telling our boy the reason she brought him here is to kill her. The blade is trembling with rage, so Marianne asks Karam if she hasn't grown at all, and if she's really doomed to repeat the same mistake. Cyan wonders how these two even know each other, and maybe Karam should explain before swinging at anyone. Marianne doesn't wait and moves in to educate Karam. With a lazy flick of 2 fingers, she drops mountain-like pressure on our hero's arm. She praises his endurance, but my guy shuts her up instantly. He couldn't care less about her. He's busy humbling Karam. Marianne is caught off guard since our boy isn't fazed by her divine energy at all. Hastia quickly apologizes, saying his guardian is only here looking for Lady Alice. The moment she hears Alice's name, the pressure lifts off our boy. Marianne asks how he knows Alice. Our guy casually says she's his big sister and asks where she is. Marianne replies Alice was here but left long ago. He asks why she came, and Marianne just shrugs, saying she has no clue. Then she adds this place is the holy water source blessed by Lady Aquinas. If he came for Alice, she suggests he leave. Our boy sighs and agrees there's no point sticking around. Hastia looks at him like that's it, but Cyan says staying longer is just wasting time. Then, out of nowhere, he asks Marianne if she's got beef with his demon blade. Marianne dodges, saying he should ask the blade himself. Our boy notes Karam's been suspiciously quiet lately. Deciding that's a problem for later, Cyan grabs Hastia and launches upward. The speed almost rips his soul out for a quick trip. Just before leaving, our boy glances back but says nothing. As he goes, Marianne admits she had thought about this moment, just didn't expect Cyan to actually show up. Behind the door, a woman notes he's no ordinary guy and has leveled up a lot. It's Alice. Marianne asks if she's still hiding until she gets stronger. Alice admits she used to drag him down, so now she wants to power up before facing him again. Marianne then drops the bomb that Cyan already sensed her presence. Our guy, casually reading her mind, but chose not to call her out since she chose to stay hidden. As they leave, Marianne quietly hopes they'll cross paths with Cyan again soon. As Alice steps into the pure water, she pleads to Lady Aquinas, already bracing herself to take in that power. From a distance, Mariana and her relic serpent watch, stunned that Alice is pushing far past human limits after just a couple months here. It says the water in this temple holds the essence of the first water the goddess gifted with her own hands. If Alice fully takes it in, she'll inherit the power of the water goddess and become her incarnation. But it won't be easy for a human body to endure any further. No matter how much Mariana supports her, Alice can't just ignore her body's limits. Still, Mariana helps however she can. Her serpent then asks if she is acquainted with the demon blade. Mariana admits she killed Karam's former master. Back to our boy, he wonders why his blade is still quiet after sensing Mariana. He casually hurls it at the door and nearly kills Hastia, who was sneaking a peek at him. He asks what she's doing here. The poor prophet says she was just checking if he's okay. Our guy almost snaps, wondering why a tiny pipsqueak like her is worried about him. She says she saw Tyan's future with her foresight. Our hero instantly asks about tomorrow's weather, and she's blank as usual. Not impressed, he tells the little prophet to go take a nap. But Hastia is dead serious, saying she saw a giant clashing with Cyan in battle. Cut to Eru, casually sipping coffee while Sarika worries, clearly jealous of that lazy vibe. But Eru figures this chill attitude is exactly what makes a god a deity. She sighs and says he used perception manipulation on Cyan's brand, but if he's even a little late, things could go wrong fast. Eru smirks, saying she still doesn't trust Cyan that easily. She says it's way too soon to let their guard down. Cyan shrugs and says he'll just prove her wrong. She asks what he means by that. Eru casts a spell and says those 3 years training with Cyan weren't for nothing. The scene cuts to our boy walking, thinking it's pretty disappointing to leave empty-handed. He came here for a profit, but there's no way he's dragging that young elf into his fight. Suddenly, Mariana appears, asking if he is leaving. Our guy wonders if the elemental dragon came just to honor him by seeing him off. She says she is here to send him off by force. He smirks and says he can leave quietly without trouble. She says that is a relief since he is unlike his blade. Our hero asks how she knows his demon blade. She figures he's not on good terms with his blade and tells him to ask for it himself. He's confused, so she adds he might need that demon blade very soon. Right then, a shock hits his body. He drops, thinking the brand has already kicked in. Mariana says the spell she cast when they first met is fading. He asks if the perception trick is gone and if the sky is changing. She smirks and says it means his end is near. Our boy instantly fumes at Eru. Elsewhere, Eru sneezes and wonders who's talking about him. Sarika snaps, asking if he's really trying to kill his own heir. Eru stays chill, saying nothing will happen to Tyan, but Sarika questions his opponent being a god sentinel. Eru is sure his 3 years of training means Cyan won't lose. Eru adds that the Oracle already determined Cyan's win. Meanwhile, my guy is struggling with the giant's relentless assault. Our hero is in big trouble as his blade isn't backing him up, and he needs to rely on his human fighting abilities. The giant swings a ground-shattering strike. Our hero uses mist movement to dodge it and uses a rage fog storm on the giant's arm. Our assassin sees no damage to the enemy. Then he barely manages to avoid a surprise spear attack. Our buddy accepts the fact that without Karam's full power, he can't even budge the giants. He wonders if it is really an insurmountable wall for a human. But then something clicks in his mind. Among the giants, our guy almost looks like an ant that could be crushed by Mariana's overwhelming force. She says Cyan can never surpass the supreme god as a human. She asks our boy if he has any last words. Our black fog turns the blade toward himself. Mariana gets confused. Cyan, knowing if he can't surpass them as a human, decides to give up on being human. And that's exactly what Karam wanted this whole time. Mariana gets it. Cyan is entrusting his body to the demon blade. It's too late to figure that out as our black fog already stabs himself with the blade. Hastia gets chills and senses something happened to Cyan, which takes over his body. Cut to the heated combat ground, the 3 giants already positioned tight. We see Karam enjoy her first breath in Cyan's body. The next second, a powerful strike hits one giant, giving it no time to move. One giant goes down just like that. She loves the taste of this brute strength. The other 2 giants take defensive positions. Karam evolves way above her expectations, and it's all thanks to our black fog. Hastia rushes barefooted to see Cyan. In a flashback, she sits on a woman's lap talking about the blessing of foresight. The woman tells Hastia the divine tree favors the guardian to protect the prophet, not wander off. Hastia wonders if Garnian found his way to her. The story reveals she is the 11th prophet Frisia. She says Garnian earned his path the hard way, and foresight only pointed it out. Hastia loves the idea of being a prophet and telling people their path. Frisia replies it comes with a heavy burden, and you cannot reveal every future. Hastia asks if some futures are off limits. Frisia says anyone with authority of a dead god is unreadable. Pick one as your guardian, and even your own future goes dark, so choose wisely. Hastia says she would never pick someone that hopeless. Now she feels like an idiot for doing exactly that and cannot even find him here. She spots giants fighting, sees her boy, and realizes they are from foresight and must be stopped. Marianne cuts in and tells her to drop it or die trying. Hastia asks why she is here. In the middle of the chaos, Marianne says the giants were sent by the god of light Rumendel to punish thine who was branded. Cyan tried to defy fate, gave his body to a demon blade, and if he wins things spiral out of control, so stop him at all costs. Hastia suggests helping Cyan. Marianne calls it foolish as the foresight she got from the divine tree belongs to the goddess of water. Joining now means the water goddess meddles in the light god's execution. She asks if Hastia can bear that risk since it could ruin Frisia and her kin. Hastia lets go of Marianne's hand and Marianne says she made the right call, leaving it to fate. Back in combat, Karam unleashes a fury of strikes. Second giant drops and one is left. Karam knows the drill. She taps the authority of the god of black fog with arch adamant and hurls an energy spear. It rips through the last Nephilim and wipes it out. Karam flexes, then remembers some unfinished business and shoots Marianne a look. Hastia calls it foolish and blocks the Karam attack with a water barrier. Marianne tells her to stay out of it. Hastia tone flips and she hushes Marianne, saying she needs a word with the demon blade alone. Marianne hears Lady Aquinas in her voice. Karam strains against the goddess of water until she tells her enough. Karam shifts into Karam her real body as she realizes it is Aquinas. The water goddess says thrashing around will not fix the past. Karam tells her to stay out of it. She has every reason to want revenge. Aquinas tries to cool her down, saying her current master would never die that easily. She presses her forehead against Karam and says she will tell her about the path. After some time, Cyan opens his eyes and sees cute little Hastia. Before he asks, she tells him he felt unconscious fighting the giants, and Marianne moved him here. Our boy lies unconscious for almost half a day. All he remembers is handing over his body to Karam and nothing else. Now when he sees his blade, there is no response from it again, which starts to annoy him. Hastia eyes him and asks if he's really Cyan. He fires back with a casual question about tomorrow's weather and boom, instant trust. Then he says he's leaving. She wastes no time and asks to tag along. Word's out, the battle rumors already hit the elven lands and made Elfu uneasy. Mariana handled it and put Sion's protection spell back up like nothing happened. Garnian wants the threat like Cyan to be neutralized once for all, but Mariana shrugs since Cyan is leaving Farina anyway. What she can't wrap her head around is why Lady Aquinas even stepped in. Then boom, a massive presence crashes in and Marianne feels the pressure from miles away. Elfu asks what's going on. She just takes off. No answer, sensing Farina is in trouble. Elsewhere, a new character surfaces, calm and scary strong. She says she'll land right on target since Cyan's scent keeps getting stronger every step. Mariana walks up to the newcomer and says she's only the second human to step into Elfland. She summons a sword and makes it clear she won't repeat herself. She accuses the stranger of carrying ominous energy and orders her to leave immediately. Lunav fires back, asking if this is how she treats first meetings, then says she'll leave once she finds the person she's after. Mariana narrows it down, asking if she means a certain human. Lunav asks if he had a smell. Mariana is lost. So Lunav leans in and asks if he smelled like a huge pool of blood in a dark, damp basement. Mariana is even more confused. Lunav adds it's an oddly tempting scent. That settles it for Mariana. This one is trouble. She points her weapon and says she's too late since she felt that child leave just now. She warns the guards to stay sharp and not let that profane half-demon Rem slip in. Lunav clearly has a point, and her guardian suggests listening to Mariana. Its name is Rem. Rem admits Mariana is not someone she can handle alone. She's an elemental dragon, a rare ancient favorite of the world. As Mariana flies off, Rem mutters that it's surprising she's still alive. Lunav shrugs and says you never know. She then asks if Rem knows so much because he's lived that long. Rem says that's only half true since experience stacks over time. Lunav wonders if a human like her could ever reach that level. Rem says it's not impossible, maybe through necromancy. Lunav looks like she might actually consider that option. Cut to our hero returning home while Sarika is busy grabbing Eru. She's shocked Kyan slipped past the Nephilims. Eru starts to praise the clean escape, but Cyan nails him with a snowball right to the face. With a dead serious look, Cyan cracks a joke and Eru realizes the young boy got better at jokes. Our boy asks Eru why he dropped the perception trick. Eru casually says he just wanted to see how much his air improved. Cyan, annoyed, says that's not a good excuse to toss him into a death trap. Eru then asks why he and his blade seem so out of sync, but Cyan is clearly not in the mood. Later, after hearing the story, Eru notes the fight must have been pretty wild. Both Cyan and Sarika silently agree that's on him. Cyan adds Karam has been quiet since then, and wonders if she's asleep. Eru says she likely shut herself off completely and won't wake soon. Plus, she's holding some strange energy. He can't say when she'll return, but Cyan can still use the demon blade, so no issue. Cyan shrugs it off but admits it still bothers him. Sarika then spots a kid behind him and asks what he dragged in. Cyan bluntly says it's an elf and asks her to take care of her. She snaps, asking if she looks like a daycare. The small Hastia tugs her clothes and politely introduces herself. Sarika shuts her down instantly, telling her not to interrupt elders. Hastia panics and apologizes fast. Still irritated, Sarika demands why he brought a prophet kid who should be meditating in the mountains. Cyan says she can see the future, so she might help. Eru suddenly dotes on Hastia, calling her cute and saying she's welcome anytime. Sarika explodes, telling him not to invite more trouble when he already does nothing. She rants that she's buried under the mess he left and losing patience daily, so no more burdens. Cyan quickly agrees, already thinking this won't end well, while Eru happily plays with Hastia anyway. Cut to a stoic statue. Boris reflects that people are painfully simple, loyal to those who hurt them, and he finds it outright disgusting. A woman approaches, annoyed by the meeting spot. He calmly says she has done well to come this far. She reminds him she is a ruling princess and warns him not to waste her time. Boris says he came to honor the dead. She asks who. He drops it plain. Cyanvert kills the saintess. The blonde recalls the center sent people to Fruina to check ruins. Boris shrugs, says this is only the start. Cyan's blade will turn on the empire that cursed him. Then he asks her where it all ends, since she holds the empire now. She cuts to the point. What do you want and where is he? Boris says he does not know where Cyan is, but he wants full support for a ruin expedition with top Imperial Knights. He believes something big waits there. She agrees easily and guesses the place is the Romar ruins. Boris is surprised. She says someone else is heading there too and asks if he wants to join them. Cut to Princess Erin saying she is ready to leave for the Romar ruins. An old man warns her the plateau will be harsh. She says she has made up her mind. Something there is tied to her past. He hands her a book on the plateau and worries out loud. She thanks him and tells him he has done enough. He still insists on sending someone with her. Later, Reshmus greets Erin and mentions the books. A voice cuts in, saying if Reshmus is coming, this trip might actually be fun. It's Sarika, excited to travel with her own students. Yet she sighs inside, wondering if this is just a daycare. Transition to Hastia. She has been with our boy for 2 days and still hasn't received a single oracle. She breaks down and regrets choosing someone so hopeless to be her guardian. She even starts doubting her own foresight, wondering if she is even fit to be a prophet. As she lies there in despair, she hears someone nearby angrily asking why his fortune turned out unrequited. An ugly woman snaps back that fate cannot be changed, and if he keeps annoying her, she will have him thrown in jail. The guy ends up weeping while the woman bluntly tells him to go earn more money. Hastia watches him leave and then quietly steps into the tent. The woman asks who she is. Hastia introduces herself and asks if she is a prophet too. The woman confirms it and quickly guesses that Hastia is dealing with some kind of problem. She casually shuffles her cards and says she can read everything through them. As she lays the cards out, she asks Hastia to pick one. Thinking the granny is kind of cool, Hastia eagerly grabs a card. The granny reveals that Hastia feels stuck because she wants to help someone but has already hit her limit. Hastia nods in agreement. Then the granny flips another card and says this must be the source of her trouble. As Hastia looks at it, the granny calls it the Hermit. She explains that the person Hastia wants to help is probably extremely hard-headed. Hastia could not agree more as she quietly thinks about tomorrow's weather. She suddenly grabs the old lady's hand and passionately asks her to teach her this prophetic technique. The woman is clearly caught off guard by the request. Cut to Aaron. Reshmus asks if she is really okay with Sarika joining the journey. Aaron replies that Sarika is close to Kayan, so she should be useful. She also suspects the Chancellor placed Sarika there to keep an eye on things. Reshmus then brings up another issue. Aaron asks what she means. Reshmus explains there has been someone tailing them for the past few days and asks if she should deal with it. Aaron raises her voice and tells the person to come out before her guard forces them to. The man hiding behind a tree freezes. As Reshmus reaches for her sword, he quickly steps out and says he will cooperate, so please lower the blade. Aaron recognizes him as Sir Gale. Gale admits Aaron is sharp and tries to explain he holds no personal grudge and only wants forgiveness. Aaron hears nothing but excuses and bluntly states that she knows he works for Princess Violette. Gale already expected her to see through him, so he shrugs it off as a misunderstanding. In the next moment, Reshmus is right in front of him, sword raised with a clear warning. Gale instantly draws his blade and their swords clash, sending sparks flying. His expression hardens as he tells Reshmus to stay out of their conversation. Aaron shuts him down, saying she has no interest in talking to someone this rude and suspicious. Instead, she challenges him to avoid bloodshed by revealing what he reports to Princess Violette. Gale responds that he now serves in the Imperial Knights, but was once an elite knight of the Knights of Light. There is no way someone freshly graduated like Reshmus could defeat him. Reshmus shifts her footing and attacks again, this time landing a solid hit to his gut. Gale staggers back and decides to withdraw, sticking to his orders to avoid further conflict. Before leaving, he tells Aaron to tend to Reshmus's wound. Only then does Reshmus realize she has been cut. Aaron rushes to her side as Gale adds that the injury is not fatal and should heal quickly with proper magic. Aaron's expression turns cold with anger as she says she will not forget this. Gale casually replies that he is simply following orders from the Imperial family with no personal intent. He adds a final warning that many others will be watching her since she was once the fiancée of the killer Cianverte. That pushes Aaron over the edge. As Gale walks off, Reshmus apologizes, but Aaron tells her this was never a fight she could have handled alone. It is then revealed that Gale had risen to the level of Swordmaster within the Knights of Light. Only a handful in the Empire could stand against him. A little later, once he is far enough, Gale suddenly collapses, trembling from the pain of Reshmus's strike. She had nearly caught him off guard and he barely managed to defend. She was even about to release her sword aura. He never imagined someone as skilled as Reshmus would be serving Princess Aaron. As he struggles back to his feet to report this, our assassin silently appears right behind him. He turns, sensing something behind him, but it is already too late. Our assassin has moved first and struck, leaving him wounded. Gale does not know if his opponent is an Imperial assassin, but he feels far beyond his level, and every instinct in him screams the man's movement and timing are deadly precise. Gale reacts fast and activates Predator of the Abyss, lunging forward in a desperate counter. But our boy meets him head-on with Fogblade Flash. The clash is instant and decisive. Gale's skill is completely erased, and in the next moment he sees his own arm, cleanly sliced off. While Gale cries in pain, our hero asks him why a loyal vassal of Duke Vert is working for Violette. Gale asks how Cyan knows him, but that's not what our boy. He removes his mask and demands an answer. Gale is shocked to see him, and our hero coldly says his reply will decide if he dies in pain or not. We come back in time where our guy fights the top knights of Garam. They were furious since he killed their Count Pyron, but pulling off one Fogblade Stormwrap takes care of them. Still, our guy is getting annoyed by their increasing numbers and the fact he's got no reinforcement. Suddenly, a phantom beast leaps onto an opponent. It's actually Gale who showed up with reinforcement to back our guy up. The enemy realizes they get surrounded. Gale orders his men to kill without mercy. Back then, Gale was one of the rare knights who could wield the blade. A straight-up prodigy in both swordplay and summoning magic. He was also among the few disciples Yulkin personally trained from a young age. So seeing someone like him serving Princess Violette, our hero can't help but ask why he bailed. Gale feels oddly honored that the youngest master of House Verta actually acknowledged him. Then Gale drops it. His so-called betrayal was just orders from Duke Verte, our hero's own father. Cut to the Garam Council's main hall. Old Garam asks how long he was out of it. Lunav says over 3 years. He chuckles, clearly proud his granddaughter handled everything without him. Lunav takes over the council and suggests Grandpa should rest more. He asks if she came all the way from Fruina when there's a council assembly today. She says she had her guard knight, Ramella, stand in as her proxy, and she's already dismissed all the chief scholars Garam knew, so it's not really Garam's council anymore. Garam is oddly proud of her and starts laughing. She asks why he messed with Cyan. Garam replies he wanted Cyan to marry his granddaughter, but he refused. Lunav almost loses her sanity, but Garam clears it up, saying with Cyan he could have taken over the entire continent. Now he believes she can control Cyan with Grandpa's intervention. Lunav just glares at him, which reminds him of something interesting. He asks if she's been gathering information on necromancy. She says that's the real reason she came and asks for a proper book on it. Garam tells her all books on necromancy were burned out of fear of its return. Lunav isn't buying Garam's story, so Garam warns her that the end of necromancy brings only chaos, even death for the wielder. She then shows her own power, making it clear Garam has nothing to worry about as long as she stands with him. Garam likes the answer and brings up Grimoire. He keeps books long thought lost and dares she has not read any here. He brings a book and hands it over to her. It's a necromancy book. He says he once thought of leaving her the whole library someday, but this is not early inheritance, since she is the type to get whatever sparks her curiosity. Lunav agrees and says she would have gotten it sooner or later even without his help. Dean Kundal turns serious. He warns her not to be consumed by that curiosity and not to end up like her father. Then he tells her she has what she wants and should leave so he can rest. The scene shifts to the Empire's secret lab, where someone suddenly rushes in with alarming news. When Murray demands an explanation, the man reveals that the bastard has appeared once again, instantly sending Murray into a furious rage. Outside, our guy is casually talking with the guards. A girl asks if he is really the one who messed with Garam's warp system. Our assassin questions if they aren't the guys who secretly built a warp on someone else's island. The girl says Chayan talking back sounds cute. She is Annie Murray. She says she isn't like her brother and starts to use mind magic on our boy. Her arm grows purple as she throws a dark spell to swallow my boy's inside out. Chayan realizes it's mind destruction magic. Surprisingly, Annie starts to sweat heavily with face all pale. As she looks inside Chayan's state of mind, there is pure chaos. Annie falls as she could hold to watch the horrific sight any longer. The guards accuse Chayan of doing some magic to her. Murray steps in the chat and orders the guards to step back as Chayan isn't someone they can mess around with. One guard asks Murray that his sister has been defeated and whether he will just stand by. Murray calmly says he will not interfere, which stuns the guard. Our hero walks past them, praises his decision, and says he will use this route often so he needs Murray's support, and Murray agrees while sweating heavily. Actually, Murray fears Lady Lunav's death threat for even touching Chayan, whom she calls her target, so he prefers to never see Chayan again. Later, Lunav hears Chayan show up again. Murray reports that Chayan just slipped through the warp gate at the ruin branch. She asks if there are any injuries. He says only one is hurt. She clarifies she means if that man is hurt. He says Chayan passed through the warp just fine, but Murray notes he did seem to have a companion. They all spot a girl chasing after him. Lunav immediately asks where he warped to. Murray says it was the Romar Plateau. As our boy arrives, he remembers Gale telling him Princess Erin had headed to the Romar Plateau. His mission was to keep an eye on Erin and report everything directly to Duke Verte. Our hero had asked what Gale's real goal was. Gale had said he wanted to uncover the truth behind everything happening. The Duke believed the Emperor's worsening condition was somehow connected to Princess Violette. He also believed Princess Erin was in serious danger, especially now that Violette was tightening her hold over the Empire. Chayan had asked why Gale cared so much. Gale had replied that it all came down to a promise. When our boy pushed him for an answer, Gale explained that Duke Verte had rejected every request from the imperial family to deploy the Knights of Light. He always claimed they had once been abused as personal soldiers. Chayan had wondered if that could get the Duke branded a traitor. He could not understand why someone so obsessed with protecting his family would take such a risk. Gale answered that it was because of the Duke's loyalty to the Emperor. The responsibility he carried for his children mattered more than anything else. Chayan had pointed out that it still sounded like a theory. Gale replied that he had fought beside the Duke for over 10 years and understood him better than Chayan. Our hero then cut him off and asked the real question, why Princess Erin was heading to the Romar Plateau. Gale had no clue either, but he mentioned that Romar was rumored to hold ruins containing methods capable of killing a god. Chayan had grown uneasy and wondered why Erin would ever need something like that. Gale was not sure either, but he thought she might have been trying to find Chayan. After all, he had been her fiancé, and maybe she truly loved him. Gale said Erin had been secretly obsessed with gathering information on Chayan. While watching him, she had learned a few things too. Chayan had asked what she discovered. Gale replied that she found out Chayan was not a demon. The real ones pulling strings were Eshelvert and Prince Ruinel. My guy had brushed Gale's findings off as useless, but Gale reminded him about the accusations placed on him and still offered to help despite his terrible condition. Our boy had felt guilty, so he asked Gale if he would ever be able to use a sword again. Gale casually laughed and said he still had his left arm. Now back in the present, our boy feels bad for what he did to Gale, but then he suddenly stops and calls Hastia out for hiding nearby. She asks how Chayan noticed her, and he replies that her sneaking skills are trash. Hastia gets annoyed and asks that if he already knew she was there, why did he not invite her along earlier? Our hero shrugs and says it does not matter since she is going to follow him anyway. He even mocks her for being useless even with her oracle, which instantly pisses Hastia off. She claims she can predict anything and instantly lays out her cards. Then she tells him to pick one so she can answer whatever Cayenne wants to know. Cayenne honestly does not expect her to know witchcraft. He wonders if that idiot god actually taught Hastia something useful for once. Still, he decides to play along. He picks the knight card and casually asks where they should head next. Hastia says a group of warriors gathered somewhere ahead, and the place holds the clues Cyan needs. Cyan can barely believe these dead highlands actually have people living nearby. Later, they really do find a guild. Hastia smugly brags about her flawless foresight, but our boy stays ice cold and says even a broken clock gets lucky twice a day. He fixes her hood properly before entering a guild. Cheyenne quietly scans the area around him while Hastia shrinks a little since everyone there looks rough as hell. Cheyenne quickly realizes they are mercenaries, though they might still be easier to handle than they look. Then some thug walks over and starts mocking Hastia for looking so pale. The second that idiot reaches for her, a sonic slash slices through his fingers. While the guy screams in pain, my boy calmly tells them to start talking. The guild head instantly shows up and praises our boy's fighting skills. But the second he reaches out for a friendly handshake, he gets a dagger aimed his way. Rick quickly clears things up, saying he only wants to talk and has zero interest in Hastia. Later, they sit around a table loaded with food. Rick asks if this is their first time here because they clearly are not tied to any guild yet. Then he casually offers them a spot in their rusty sword guild. Our hero shuts that idea down without even blinking. He asks Rick if any weird phenomena happened around here. Rick looks a little disappointed in our boy, but he explains that around 3 years ago, strange mutations started appearing near the Ramia Valley almost like demonic beasts. That is when mercenaries flooded the area since civilians kept getting caught in the mess too. Then our boy brings up the ruins, and Rick immediately asks if he means the Romar ruins. Rick says this is not the kind of topic to discuss with half the room listening in, so he takes our boy outside. But the moment they are alone, his whole tone changes. He asks who Tyann really is behind that shady mask. Add in the questions about the ruins, and now Rick is wondering if Cayenne might actually be a spy from the Garum Council. Our hero throws Rick's suspicions in trash by overpowering him in a single move, then coldly warns him that if he does not start talking, he is going to lose his head. Rick explains that the Romar Plateau originally had no beasts or even weeds growing around it, but 3 years ago the ruins started leaking some strange energy. After that, twisted life forms began appearing as all kinds of monsters. Once the civilians started getting slaughtered too, the Empire finally sent troops to contain the mess. Now Rick's group guards the area surrounding the ruins. Our hero asks if Rick is secretly the Knight of Light keeping a low profile instead of fighting inside the ruins. Rick ignores the question and says Duke Verda has not been cooperating lately. Then he suggests Cyan travel with his guild since he can guide them through the area himself. Rick also warns them about the monsters nearby, though he casually mentions they sell pretty well to men. Cyan wonders why their blood carries power similar to demonic beasts. Rick suddenly gets weirdly embarrassed and mutters what else could it possibly be. The moment he explains they boost stamina, our boy instantly makes sure Hastia does not hear that disgusting nonsense. Later, while waiting for the guild members, Hastia asks if Cayenne really trusts those mercenaries. Cyan flat out says no. He only agreed because they looked easy to manipulate. Then Rick returns with the Rusty Sword Guild and introduces everyone. First is Marina, a poison assassin. The giant carrying an axe is Malbec, and the bored-looking flame mage is Altz. The whole group keeps staring at Hastia in a way that feels incredibly shady. Rick once again assures them his guild members are way more reliable than they seem. Our boy dryly reminds him that Rick himself is still coming along with them. Rick then leads everyone through a broken pathway and says it is a shortcut leading straight to the ruins. Our boy immediately catches the nasty smell of blood and becomes certain there are rotting corpses nearby. Little Hastia starts feeling sick too, so our boy quietly tells her to listen carefully. Hastia notices Cyan is using mind-link magic to speak directly to her. He warns her that the moment he gives the signal, she needs to shut her eyes and ears immediately. When she tries responding, he repeats himself in a dead serious tone and warns her that otherwise she is going to puke her guts out. As they continue deeper inside, Rick mentions they have gone so far underground that even sunlight cannot reach this place anymore. Meanwhile, our boy notices the blood stench growing stronger with every step they take. Then Rick suddenly says they have arrived. They stand before a disgusting pit overflowing with corpses, and our boy asks if this was Rick's plan all along to dump them into a graveyard full of bodies. Rick drops the act and grins, saying Cayenne will die while the virgin elf stays useful to the guild. Malbec suddenly jumps from behind, trying to end it in one swing, saying it is already too late for him to react. He brings his axe crashing down on Cyan's head, but weirdly, our boy doesn't even flinch and calmly says he knew everything from the start. The axe slams into the ground instead, and in that instant Cyan's body melts into black fog. Malbec instantly realizes he picked the wrong target and starts to feel real dread. At that moment, Hastia drops down and shuts her eyes and ears tight. Our hero activates the authority of the god of black fog. In a single move, he slices through Malbec and a nearby guard, then vanishes again inside mist-like shadows. Rick shouts to capture the elf. Marina grabs Hastia fast, but she tells her to run, which only confuses her. What she sees next is a raging fog storm tearing through everything in its path. Hastia remains untouched while Marina drops dead. Rick orders his mage to buff him and prepares to strike, but the mage cannot even track what is attacking them. Then Cyan's blade cleanly slashes Rick's cheek. The mage's staff falls, and when Rick turns, Altz is already coughing blood after being struck down by Cyan. In seconds, Rick is the only one left standing. Our hero spares him for now, saying he still needs him to find Romar. Rick stands frozen, staring at the masked figure in swirling black fog, wondering if he somehow offended a mist god, while our boy uses the skill of shadow persona. The mist seeps inside Rick's eyes and completely controls his mind. Later, they enter the ruins and finally see the massive Romar ruins. Staring at the abandoned place, Cyan says the place may look dead now, but once it was packed with people. The rumor fits too, since this used to be a temple for the goddess of death. If she was powerful enough to kill gods, then the other gods probably kicked her out themselves. Just then, Rick asks if Cyan has any orders. Acting weirdly polite, Rick tells him to just say the word. Even Cyan looks slightly annoyed by how fake nice he is acting. Hastia whispers that the man feels completely different now, but Cyan tells her to relax, since he is on their side. Our boy then orders Hastia and Rick to head back into the cave. Rick instantly complains and asks why he has to go back there again. Cyan casually replies that he does not need a reason, and tells him to guide anyone coming this way somewhere else. Rick asks again, so our boy bluntly tells him to send people the opposite direction and avoid fighting if possible. Back at the guild, the members are still furious. The bald guy is especially losing it after Cyan chopped off his hand. He swears he will get revenge personally. Then someone mentions that Cyan apparently left this morning with the Rusty Sword Guild. Another guy jokes that those dudes are basically slave drivers. The bald guy says revenge will feel pointless unless he handles the masked guy himself. Then he suddenly remembers Hastia and mutters that she looked like a white elf. Everyone knows how insanely valuable she is. Even the dagger Cyan carried looked suspiciously rare. Now the bald guy is regretting being careless because all of that could have been his. Then someone from behind asks him to explain more about the raven-haired man. The bald guy scoffs, wondering who is crazy enough to order him around. But the moment he turns, he freezes after seeing a line of Imperial soldiers and a Commander Boris standing behind him. He asks if they are from the Empire. Boris calmly says to tell him more about the dagger user. The bald guy snaps back, asking who the hell he thinks he is. Without even blinking, Boris tosses down a pile of gold coins and says that should be enough to hire everyone there. The bald guy gets humbled instantly and reveals everything he knows. Cheyenne headed toward the Romar Plateau ruins with some kids. Boris immediately realizes the kid must be the white elf prophet. He then offers the bald guy double the pay if he guides them to the ruins. The bald guy jumps up so fast that his chair crashes behind him. The soldiers nearly pull their swords, but their leader stops them. By now the bald guy is completely drunk on greed and rage. Grinding his teeth, he asks what exactly they need him to do. Cuts to Romar Plateau, Warp Gate. Aaron says using the warp gate surely saves time, while Reshmus shivers and complains that freezing weather is impossible to get used to. Lunav welcomes them warmly and says they should ask her for anything they need. She even adds that if bringing Senior Cayenne back takes this much effort, then it is worth it, making Aaron shoot her a cold glare. Back then, Dean Kundal asks Lunav why she plans to skip the lectures. He quickly figures out she is leaving because of Cyan, and Lunav gets surprised. Dean Kundal reveals Princess Aaron already informed him about her trip days ago, making everything click for her. He then asks what she plans to do about her classes, since she cannot dump them on her guard night like the Garam Council keeps doing. Lunav calmly offers a deal instead. She proposes sharing part of the Warp Gate artifact owned by the Garam Council with the Ruin Council. Dean Kundal instantly realizes the rumors were real. Lunav calls it an academic exchange limited to the Ruin region, with one condition letting her leave whenever she wants. Dean Kundal thinks it over, then throws in his own condition. He says an academy instructor must accompany her. As the two keep exchanging icy stares, another voice cuts in. They seem to be getting along just fine. It is Sirika. She reminds them that this journey is her responsibility, and she hopes nobody causes trouble. She comes on Dean Kundal's order, but she is annoyed by the baby sitting on all of them. Lunav knows Sirika's weakness, but she moves along to protect her Nana. Sirika asks Aaron if she knows this place, and Aaron says she already visited it beforehand. A serious voice suddenly questions why they even came here. It is Rick, eyeing the girls and warning them to turn back while he is still being polite. Otherwise, he says he will not hold back just because they are women from rich families. The three instantly prepare to fight, but Sirika moves first and rushes Rick the moment he lowers his guard. She nearly twists his neck on the spot, making Rick surrender faster than expected. He even offers to guide them, leaving the girls completely confused. Sarika narrows her eyes and asks what kind of trick he is pulling now. Rick quickly claims this place is a nightmare anyway, so guiding them sounds safer than dying alone. Sarika senses zero killing intent from him, which only makes him look more suspicious. Still, she warns him that one stupid move will get his skull smashed in. Rick introduces himself properly, and Princess Erin asks what exactly makes this place dangerous enough to need a guide. Rick explains that taking the wrong path here is basically suicide since the area is crawling with horrifying monsters. Cut to a monstrous vulture chasing our boy while he piggybacks Hastia. Chayan mocks the ugly beasts while Hastia panics and tells him to stop fooling around. Our boy realizes that the second he stepped into the ruins, both demonic and normal beasts rushed him together. Then a giant deer suddenly bursts out of nowhere. Chayan instantly leaps up and smashes it using his fog shadow. Next, he slices through the vultures with his fog blade before hopping onto the back of another monstrous vulture. Meanwhile below, a giant serpent and countless monsters completely seal the entrance. But my boy stays fearless. He kills the vulture beneath him and dives straight into the starving horde below. While Hastia barely hangs onto our boy and cries her eyes out, our hero blasts the door open so hard that every monster behind it gets wrecked together instantly. He yanks his dagger out of a vulture's skull and asks Hastia if she is fine. She is already unconscious, making our boy grumble that she is completely useless anyway. Then he walks toward the creatures to figure out what they really are, because they do not even resemble mutants. They carry absolutely no mana, so our boy casually tastes some blood and realizes they are just normal animals. Hastia wakes up looking disgusted at him and calls him a total brute for licking blood like that. Our boy fires back that he needs answers about these creatures, and if her precious foresight works so well, then she should try using it herself. Hastia pulls out a card and predicts that it says the creatures are not important at all. When our boy asks what that even means, she says they need to revisit the path they came from earlier. Then she points toward a strange structure hidden inside the ruins. Our boy senses faint mana coming from it, though he still doubts it is the correct route. Even so, he releases his dark energy, causing the gate to tremble violently before rising upward. Turns out the Cyan was right about it being a hidden corridor after all, and now a brand new hallway opens before them, overflowing with dense mana everywhere. Hastia proudly shows off her fancy new skill like she actually did something incredible. What she still does not realize is that the fortune teller secretly holds nasty intentions toward her. Yet clueless little Hastia remains completely unaware of it anyway. Cut to the girls wandering across the same plateau, already doubting if they are even heading the right way anymore. Lunav asks Rick why they have been walking the same route forever. Rick calmly replies that no trouble has appeared yet, so obviously they are still on the correct path. Lunav tries to pressure him a little, making Rick wonder if they are starting to suspect him. Remembering Tyan's orders, he decides to quit looping around since he has already stalled enough time. Then he points ahead and says they finally reached the spot. Right before them stands the ruined entrance filled with beast corpses everywhere. Aaron wonders if somebody has already entered before them. Reshmus guesses it was the Imperial Army, but Aaron quickly points out they still have not arrived yet. Lunav casually says it was Senior Cyan. Aaron looks shocked and asks how she can even know that. Lunav explains that she can literally smell Cyan around here. Then she urges everyone to hurry because they are already close to finding him. Rick gets quietly moved by Lunav's absurd tracking ability. Just then, Sarika notices another route nearby. Rick explains that it is the main entrance and says they purposely took a shortcut because entering through there would have meant dealing with the Imperial Army first. Sarika suddenly announces she will handle that route herself. When the others ask why, she simply tells them to move ahead before dashing into the main entrance path alone, clearly planning to stall the army herself. The girls stand there surprised for a second, but eventually continue deeper into the ruins anyway. Rick points at the collapsed gate ahead and says, "Getting through will not be easy." A second later, a star-like explosion blasts the blockage apart and clears the entire path instantly. Rick stares in disbelief, realizing Aaron is far more dangerous than rumors claimed. He never expected the fifth princess to possess such ridiculous power. Meanwhile, Lunav notices more monster corpses scattered nearby and points them out casually. Aaron asks where these creatures even came from. Lunav replies that the ruins probably hold the answer. Meanwhile, Rick stays suspiciously far away while urging everyone to hurry over. Lunav immediately senses something off. She walks toward a sealed wall and says Cayenne's scent suddenly ends there, meaning another hidden route exists behind it. Rick nearly panics at how accurate her guess is, but quickly insists that it is definitely not the correct path. Before things can get worse for him, a monster suddenly jumps Rick from behind, but Reshmus reacts instantly and smashes away the beast before it can touch Rick. She keeps going without hesitation, activating a bound sec technique and rushing at the monster at insane speed. Using Drain Self, she cuts straight through it like paper. Then she asks Rick if he is alright. Rick can barely process how casually the beast got erased in seconds. Aaron warns everyone not to relax because more beasts are already surrounding them. Instantly, the group prepares for battle. Outside the main entrance, Commander Boris's soldiers finish preparing to move. Then Boris arrives alongside several mercenaries and announces they will assist the expedition. He asks if anything happened while he was gone. One soldier explains that the advance squad already entered the ruins earlier. Boris instantly grabs the soldier by the throat and furiously reminds him that nobody was supposed to move until his arrival. The terrified soldier apologizes, but Boris calls him a pathetic worm and demands to know who led the squad. The soldier reveals Sir Niels entered with 10 men. Boris throws him aside and orders everyone to move immediately. Even the mercenaries finally realize Boris is way more terrifying than he first appeared. At the same time, Boris feels a strange sense of déjà vu creeping over him. Something inside the ruins feels horribly familiar, and that disgusting energy leaking out makes him uneasy. Cut back inside the ruins. A soldier desperately runs through the corridor before a slash from behind instantly wounds him. The attacker is none other than Sarika. Niels begs for mercy. She coldly stares down at him with completely merciless eyes. Meanwhile, on our hero's side, Hastia drops to the ground because her legs are trembling from pain. Cheyenne gets annoyed and asks why she even bothered following him in the first place. Hastia points out that they have been looping through the exact same path forever. She swears she has already seen the same creepy statue multiple times now. Our boy starts suspecting some hidden mechanism is involved. Hastia nervously suggests the statue itself might be forcing them back toward it on purpose. Our boy agrees that the thing definitely has business with them. Maybe it even belongs to the true master of the ruins. Suddenly, the statue begins crying blood before the scene cuts to a severed monster head nearby. Reshmus stands over the corpse and says that should be the final one. Aaron also mentions she already cleared the monsters on her side too. She checks if everyone made it out safely. Lunav notices one member missing, the guide who brought them there earlier. She guesses the coward probably ran away while everyone else fought for their lives. Since he was useless anyway, she just tells the group to move on without him. Aaron points out they still have no clue where to go next. Lunav casually says that will not be a problem. Right then, her demon Rem suddenly appears to guide them. He admits it is not fully certain, but says it can still sense a familiar energy deeper ahead. Aaron and Reshmus stare in shock because the thing casually talks back to them. Aaron asks how it even knows her. Rem reminds them they already met before, and that it was the one who saved Aaron while she was unconscious. He smugly tells them not to forget that little detail either. Lunav proudly introduces the creature as a demon named Rem, and both Aaron and Reshmus immediately think the tiny thing looks weirdly adorable. Rem jumps off her head and complains that nobody has time to fool around. Then he unleashes Void Flare. Its body twists into a monstrous form before blasting a wall apart with crimson energy in one devastating hit. Reshmus asks why it randomly attacked the wall, but Lunav realizes the creature simply created a shortcut. Rem transforms into a wolf-like form and tells everyone to follow the safe route straight ahead. The scene cuts back to our boy as the entire area suddenly starts trembling violently. Hastia instantly clings onto him, panicking that an earthquake just started. Our boy calmly says Aaron's party probably entered the temple already. Then Hastia notices strange writing carved beneath the statue. Our boy realizes they are ancient texts written in a forgotten language. Hastia somehow reads the inscription aloud, praising the goddess who rules darkness and death itself, Kali. The moment she finishes reading, dark energy starts leaking from the statue. Hastia nervously wonders if this figure could actually be the goddess of death herself. Suddenly, eerie lightning bursts across the area. Hastia freaks out and asks what is even happening anymore. Our boy realizes the text worked like a hidden key that unlocked a doorway. Instantly, both of them get dragged into a completely different dimension that feels more like a strange subspace. Hastia quietly says the place feels disturbingly similar to a tomb. Water covers the ground while our boy notes that this dimension likely belongs to the goddess of death herself. Scared cat Hastia gets chills from every corner of the place, but our boy oddly feels far more comfortable there instead. Then footsteps echo through the darkness. A mysterious figure slowly approaches them and coldly asks who dared enter this place. The stranger then questions whether they are the children Eru and Aquinas. Our boy immediately guesses the stranger must be the master of the temple, but Hastia just stares in confusion because the terrifying figure looks like a little kid instead. The dark woman calmly introduces herself as the goddess of death, Kali. Then she asks our hero what name he goes by. Our boy gives his name without hesitation and casually declares himself the heir of that fool, Eru. Kali welcomes our boy and asks what dragged him all the way into her domain. Our hero realizes his idiot god is notorious even among gods and bluntly asks how to kill a god. Kali finds the question amusing and calls Tian interesting. Before answering, she thanks Hastia for guiding Tian to her. Then she slowly steps closer and says she needs to confirm something beforehand. She warns our guy to keep quiet while Hastia almost melts down from the heat. The goddess suddenly leans in and starts sniffing him. Even our hero looks disturbed and asks what exactly she thinks she is doing. Kali quietly calls him a poor little thing before revealing he was rejected by Rumendel too. According to her, that perfectly explains why he wants to murder a god so badly. She explains that the current age belongs to light, while darkness remains hidden beneath it. Killing the god of light would not simply remove one deity, it could destroy the entire era itself. Our boy immediately asks if she is basically saying the god cannot be killed. Kali replies that he is only half right. Gods do not always vanish through death alone. Both Kyan and Hastia look completely lost, so Kaylee explains further. Through her authority of oblivion, she can erase a god from everyone's memories entirely. Once nobody remembers or calls upon that god anymore, the deity loses power and fades away, just like her own forgotten existence buried in darkness now. Our boy points out that divine authority can only be gained by serving a god, but he already carries the authority of that foolish god he follows now. Kali smirks and says that simply means he only needs her acceptance next. Then she gently lifts his chin and asks if he is willing to become her faithful follower instead. Cut to Niels barely clinging to life while Boris checks his condition. Seeing the guy barely able to speak, Boris coldly asks why he led the advance squad on his own. Niels desperately tells him to run, and reluctantly reveals that a demon is inside the ruins. Boris signals the mercenaries to spread out and investigate, but they hesitate and start questioning him instead. Boris instantly snaps and warns them to look carefully at what happens to people who ignore his orders. The next second, Niels' face suddenly swells up absurdly before exploding apart in a brutal mess. The mercenaries stare in shock and ask why Boris killed one of his own men. Boris casually replies the guy was already dead anyway. Besides, he was nothing more than disposable bait meant to distract attention for a moment. Right then, a greedy mammon suddenly attacks from the shadows and smashes straight toward Boris's face. Boris instantly summons a holy spear, stabs the creature on the spot, and violently pins it against the cave wall. The bald mercenary stares at the black monster in confusion and asks what the hell it is. Boris grimly says the nightmare is not over yet, so everyone stays alert. Then they notice a glasses-wearing demon silently watching Boris the entire time. Sarika suddenly plunges the whole area into darkness, and the mercenaries freak out when they can't see anything. Out of nowhere, a flash of lightning slices through the dark, taking one mercenary out in an instant. More bodies hit the floor as only glimpses of light can be seen. Boris quickly unleashes his lightning of purification, sending holy lightning crackling through the cave. The light reveals Sarika mid-attack, going at another mercenary. A bald mercenary charges at her with his gauntlet hammer skill, but she effortlessly blocks it with a counterkick. He's stunned. Sarika coolly tells him to scram since she's not interested in lowlifes like him. When he doesn't back down, she uses another skill, and in a blink, she unleashes 12 slashes, taking him out for good. Next, she leaps at Boris, ready to settle an old score. Boris just laughs, convinced that no matter how much she's grown, she's still just a human. A weird energy flickers around his hand as he flicks his fingers, thinking even a fraction of his holy power can squash her. But just then, Kaylee shows up, which throws Boris's powers off balance. Sarika seizes the moment and starts raining down sword strikes, with Boris barely dodging some of them. She notices some strange dark energy swirling around them too. Boris coughs up blood from Sarika's hits and wonders if Kaylee's powers are really waking up. Sarika demands to know who he really is, but Boris just smirks, saying he's not dumb enough to spill anything to a worm. Meanwhile, we switch to Rem, who's now transformed into a giant beast, carrying the girls through the ruins. They finally reach a massive chamber where Lunov spots something up ahead that definitely looks out of the ordinary. A skeleton dressed in old robes sits on a throne. Arin thinks to herself that it's probably just a corpse and questions why it's still there. Rem explains that the skeleton was a loyal servant of the god worshipped in this place and used mana to keep the ruins intact over the years. Arin realizes that the cave surrounding the ruins was made artificially. Rem gives her props for figuring it out so quickly. Lunov suddenly suggests bringing the skeleton back to life with necromancy, which totally throws Arin off. Rem chimes in, saying necromancy isn't a bad idea after all. But Arin quickly warns Lunov about the dangers of messing with it. Still, Lunov stands her ground. Even Rem backs her up, assuring Arin that he'd never let Lunov die. Then she turns to Reshmus, wondering why she's not stopping this crazy plan. Reshmus admits she just doesn't have the strength to intervene. Lunov opens her spellbook and starts chanting. Magic circles light up around her as she commands the darkness to rise. Suddenly, black flames burst out from the skeleton, and a growling voice asks who dares disturb it. Dark arms reach for Lunov, but she holds her ground. Rem tells her that the veil is against the revival, but it'll help her out, so she should keep going. He even jokingly mentions she can send his regards once the skeleton is up and about, and adds he might need a nap from the necromancy backlash. Curious, Lunov asks if Rem knows the skeleton. He tells her to keep her focus on the spell and just ask the skeleton later. The whole place starts buzzing with dark energy. Arin warns Lunov that she's pushing too hard. Stubbornly, Lunov counters that the knowledge in these ruins could really help Senior Cyan, so the risks are totally worth it. She then challenges whether Princess Arin's determination matches hers. Arin falls silent. At that moment, the skeleton cracks open its jaw, rising back to life. Dark energy explodes around the throne as the entire chamber shakes. Lunav suddenly collapses, making Aaron rush over in a panic. Lunav weakly whispers that the revival worked, and Aaron asks what she means by that. Just then, the skeleton asks if she's the one who brought him back. Lunav is speechless as the skeleton declares it's been ages since he was alive and thanks them for reviving him. He goes on about how he feels he didn't deserve it since his life was a failure, and he couldn't protect what mattered most to him, then asks if they're disappointed. Lunav shakes her head, saying she's not disappointed because she actually managed to resurrect an old man. The skeleton laughs and tells her she got one thing wrong. When she asks what it is, he proudly states that he's not an old man. Someone as handsome as him could never be old. The girls stare at him, dumbfounded. Then the skeleton casually asks for a mirror. Lunav hands him a mirror, feeling bad for not restoring his flesh. But the mirror slips from his hands, and he freaks out about how cruel it is to wake him up looking like this. Lunav nervously mentions that her demon Rem sent his greetings. The skeleton immediately recognizes the name. Shocked, Lunav asks how he knows him. The skeleton introduces himself as Varian Arcania, the faithful builder of this temple and the former master of Demon Rem himself. Callie notices our guy is taking his sweet time and asks what's up. She reminds him he clearly wants something from her. He throws out the question of whether she really doesn't care that he's already got another god lining up. Kaylee just laughs it off, saying she doesn't mind sharing, and she's so desperate that she'd take even a two-timer. After all, a god without followers is pretty much the same as a dead one. Eventually, our guy decides to pledge his loyalty to her, and Kaylee's grinning like she just hit the jackpot, telling him he made the right call. But then his eyes go wide. Hastia freaks out, calling his name as he suddenly disappears into the dark water. Now Tyan finds himself sinking through a weird red pool, totally confused about where he is. As he keeps dropping, he feels a ton of people all around him. Looking down, he realizes it's everyone he's ever killed. The undead mock him, bringing up how he thought he could just live peacefully after trampling over them, saying it's the fate he deserves. They curse Cayenne and get a kick out of turning their dying hatred into his curse. Callie calmly asks if their words even make sense. Our hero questions if she really expects him to feel guilty now. She explains that those voices are his buried thoughts, and that guilt is now part of his memories. In the end, she asks if he's actually ready to face them. He just grins and pulls out his dagger, saying he hates all this complicated stuff. Kaylee is left stunned as he nonchalantly says it's way easier to just destroy everything. Then he charges forward, hacking through those memories. Even while he's taking down the undead, he shouts that they can curse him all they want because he'll keep slaughtering them over and over again. As he slices through the blonde guy, he decides he's going to be the curse of this world. Meanwhile, Hastia is nervously sniffing around, worried because she never explained this place to Cyan and is clueless about what to do. Suddenly, the water pool bulges out. Someone bursts out of it at full speed, freaking her out. He lands nearby and tells her to stop making noise. Only then does she realize it's Cyan. He asks Kaylee why she keeps showing him those dead guys again and again. Callie says it was all a test to see if he's worthy of being her follower and admits he exceeded her expectations. She adds it's been ages since a human entertained her this much. She says she'll personally grant her authority to the first faithful of this era, the heir of the Black Fog. The scene shifts to an exhausted Rick, who's impressed the girls are fighting monsters instead of running away. He feels relieved his job is done. Now all he has to do is survive and wait. Suddenly, he spots a barbarian lying at his feet. Rick freezes. The dead bodies belong to the mercenaries from town, and he's left wondering how they ended up here in the first place. Before he can think further, something shoots toward him at breakneck speed. He barely ducks in time as three of them slam into the wall next to him. Looking closer, he sees they're just feathers. Rick looks ahead and realizes the pressure is coming from the battle in front of him. He thought Sarika was just an academy instructor, but her presence feels monstrous. Boris is frustrated because he's used almost all his cards, but he can't figure out how this girl is still beating him, even when he's at full power. Sarika, on the other hand, is clearly enjoying the look of misery on his face. He snaps at her to be quiet, but she just casually explains that the stronger his holy power gets, the more torture this place dishes out to him. The ruins are like a giant vortex of darkness, making him easy prey. As dark energy swirls around him, Sarika decides to finish this for good so Boris won't bother Cyan anymore. She quickly pulls out her daggers and launches a fierce attack. Boris roars that she shouldn't underestimate him and swings back hard, but then he suddenly feels a sharp pain. He looks over and sees two daggers already stuck in his wings before he even knew what hit him. Right then, Sarika unleashes her Mistflower Blossom move and lands a heavy blow. An explosion rips through his wings, and Boris screams in agony, sweat dripping down his face as he grits his teeth. But Sarika isn't done yet. She drives her knee right into his stomach and sends him crashing onto a rooftop. Boris coughs up blood, shocked that he's actually losing to a human. She doesn't care about giving him time to recover. Instead, she leaps up again and slams him with her raging fogstorm while he's still stuck with the daggers. Now really hurt, Boris finally realizes that surviving is more important than his pride. He activates Angel Descends, and a blinding light bursts from his body. Sarika can't see through the light, but she quickly figures out he's about to blow up the whole ruin. And that's exactly what he does. The explosion knocks her to the ground, but she lands safely. Feeling a bit guilty for letting Boris escape, she notices a huge hole in the cave where he got away. Suddenly, her eyes narrow. One of the half-dead mercenaries grabs her leg. Without hesitation, she drives a dagger into its skull, realizing Boris planned to turn the mercs into puppets all along. She looks ahead and spots Rick struggling against the undead puppets but decides he's not worth her help. Rick desperately pleads for assistance, but now he's facing the consequences of his own actions. The scene shifts to the undead skeleton, who reveals that he was Rem's master ages ago. Lunav is caught off guard to find out her demon Rem used to be human. Varian explains that demon Rem is still missing a part, which is actually protecting this old, run-down temple. Aaron asks how the goddess of death, once adored by so many, ended up in ruins. Varian tells them that when the era of darkness ended, it gave way to the era of light, and that's when people slowly forgot about the goddess. To a god, being forgotten like that is pretty harsh. Because of this, he throws them a deal. If they become followers of the goddess of death, he'll hook them up with some rewards. Lunav jumps in and asks if he can seriously grant any wish. Varian calmly replies that he can and asks what she wants. Without missing a beat, she asks for the power to protect someone and promises to follow him faithfully. Suddenly, black sludge spills from Varian's mouth, and he says the first step is to stand before the goddess. Lunav is ready, but the other girls are a bit freaked out. Varian's jaw drops right off his face, and when he awkwardly asks for it back, she just hands it to him like it's no big deal. After he reattaches it, Varian pulls out an old piece of paper and reveals it has the key to finding the goddess. Lunav struggles with the ancient text and passes it to Aaron, who knows she's doing it on purpose because she thinks Aaron can figure it out better. The manuscript tells them to go through the swamp of memories in reverse and acknowledge the mother of death and darkness, Lady Caligona. The second Aaron hears the name, she freezes. Flashbacks of Caligona and a bunch of demonic beasts flood her mind. She remembers that Caligona created demons and all those nightmares that haunt humanity. Varian calmly mentions that might be true in the Age of Light, and he asks if that's a reason to hesitate. Lunav quickly says no. She doesn't care who Caligona is. She wants to be her follower to unlock the full power of the demon Rem. She's tired of letting others take what's hers. Varian nods, acknowledging her choice, and then asks the other two girls what they plan to do. Aaron claims she'll find her own way without taking the deal. Varian then asks Lunav for her name. After she tells him, he gently touches her forehead and wishes her a safe journey. Out of nowhere, Lunav finds herself in a bizarre celestial space filled with memory fragments. She sees the moment she was kidnapped and watches someone take her heart curve. As she focuses on that person's face, she realizes it's Cyan. She smiles, feeling certain her guess was right all along, and rushes toward him to give him a hug, saying how much she missed him. But just as she reaches him, her smile drops. Cyan suddenly backs away, and she chases after him, only to end up back in that dark pool. Finally, they see each other inside Kaylee's domain. Lunav wonders if this is a dream or just her imagination. Cyan simply asks how she got there. She slams into him, sending him flying back for what looks like a cozy hug. Outside the cave, the other girls are freaking out as Lunav passes out. Reshmus grabs her sword, demanding to know what Varian did to her. But, weirdly, she can't even pull it out. Varian coolly warns her not to misuse his name, saying Lunav's just asleep, so there's really no reason to panic. Callie chimes in, asking what it actually means to be one of her followers. Varian shrugs and says all Lunav has to do is live like one of them. Nothing too crazy. He points out that Lunav looks pretty happy while snoozing. Aaron wonders what she could be dreaming about, while Varian assumes she's content after becoming a follower. But then Aaron jumps in, saying that legends paint Caligona as an evil god. Back when Rumendel defeated her dad and stopped Kaylee's corruption, the world was basically chaotic and dark. She can't wrap her head around how anyone would want to worship someone like that. Varian questions what exactly makes Kaylee impure. Aaron just says it's because she brings death. Then Varian spills a different take on history. He points out that way back, before civilization, people were just suffering all the time. They were always dying from storms, hunger, or bad hunts. Death was basically part of life, so they prayed for it to bring peace and end their pain. That's when Lady Kali showed up, but not as some monster, but as a savior for those wanting a painless end. Seeing the girls' shocked faces, Varian jokes if they slept through their history classes. He explains that as humanity got better and escaped suffering, they stopped fearing death and moved away from the dark times into an age of light. Aaron starts to realize that this must be that age. Varian nods in confirmation. Now even Aaron is feeling conflicted about what's actually right or wrong. Then Varian hits her with a simple question. If she believed in the era of light so much, why did she even look for the Temple of Death in the first place? Her eyes go wide at that. Varian calmly points out that she probably isn't happy with Rumendel already. Suddenly, the whole cave starts shaking. Aaron asks what's going on, and Varian just says it looks like an old friend has arrived. He tells the girls it's time for them to bounce because he has some urgent stuff to take care of. Before disappearing, he can't resist reminding them that at least he's a good-looking guy on his way out. Cut to Boris barreling through the Romar Plateau and crashing hard outside. One of his wings is messed up, and he lands rough on the ground. As soon as he lands, Varian greets him casually, like they're old buddies, asking if it's been a while. Boris instantly knows that voice. Then Varian's tone shifts, getting dark as he says he's finally here to settle a debt, calling Boris by his divine scripture, Hearth-Kreia. The scene shifts back to Kaylee, who welcomes Lunav and asks if she wants to join her crew. Lunav jumps right in and mentions that Varian sent her. Kali smirks, saying Varian still finds ways to surprise her even after kicking the bucket, especially since she had given up on everything. Lunav demands to get Cyan's back and tells Kaylee to hurry up. Kaylee just calmly says there's nothing to worry about because the moment Lunav stepped into this dimension, she was meant to be there. Our guy asks how she even found this place. Lunav rolls her eyes, saying it's a silly question, especially after disappearing for so long. She mentions that Princess Erin left the imperial family and hung out at the academy while everyone else was looking for him. Hastia grabs Lunav's finger to explain that Cyan didn't have a choice because he was running from the Rumendel curse. Lunav realizes Hastia is mind-linking with her but teases her for being a pipsqueak who hung on to Cyan the whole time. When Hastia gets bummed out about that, Lunav actually compliments her for watching out for Cyan while she was away, which makes Hastia feel all warm inside, thinking maybe Lunav isn't so bad. Then Lunav asks Cyan what the Rumendel curse even is. He explains it's the punishment for going against the Holy Sword, which leads the Titans of Light and the Nephilim to chase him forever. Even if he takes them out with the Demon Blade, they don't stay dead. Lunav gets annoyed that he's dealt with all that solo and tells him to stop taking everything on his own. She claims she's finally strong enough to help him out. Our guy awkwardly points out that this isn't exactly a problem where teamwork works. Callie laughs and calls it a lover's spat, but our guy quickly denies that. Callie's all excited about having 3 faithful followers. Our hero tells her to hand over her authority if she's done chatting. Callie explains that he already got it the moment he passed the test. Suddenly dark mist starts swirling in his hand while she explains the power lets him see anyone's memories, emotions, lives, and even wipe them from existence. He quickly realizes he can use it to erase memories about gods. Callie confirms that's literally how a god gets taken out. Without wasting any time, he uses the power on Hastia, even though she's freaking out. Dark energy gets pulled from her head before she collapses. Lunav asks what he erased, and he calmly replies that he wiped her memories of Kaylee. Callie leans in and asks if he's really thinking about killing her twice. He shrugs it off, saying he needed to test his power somehow. Then he asks when Hastia will wake up, and Kaylee tells him that she's just asleep. But he quickly realizes his power has taken a hit. Kaylee explains that her strength affects his authority, so he needs to gather more followers. Our guy admits that recruiting isn't really his thing, so she shouldn't expect much. Lunav jumps in, asking if his authority grows with more followers, and Kaylee confirms it, adding that more faith means they can take complete control of the demon realm. Lunav wonders how Kali knows all this, and she smugly reminds her that she's an all-knowing goddess who can even see the tiny, precious Rami-Haram inside her. Just then, the whole place starts shaking like crazy. Massive stone pillars start folding in, and Lunav points out that this tremor feels worse than before. He quickly realizes that the creepy presence he feels means the holy book must be nearby. Kali says it's time to get out. Both of them stand there confused while Kaylee explains she's just tossing them out of the dimension. He complains that now that they're her followers, they should help clean up the mess. Kali flat out refuses, saying she doesn't want to lose her hard-won followers and will deal with Boris herself. A moment later, he and Hastia pop back in the cave near the statue they saw earlier. As he looks around, he wonders if Kaylee has other followers hidden away who can take on Boris. Hastia suddenly wakes up, and he asks what she remembers last. She says he told her to read the text under the statue, which means the authority worked like a charm. Then it cuts back to Lunav, where Erin is relieved to see her awake. But the first thing Lunav asks is where Senior Cyan is. Shocked, Erin exclaims that Cyan is actually alive. Lunav says they can talk later because the ruins are about to come crashing down. Back in the dimension, Kaylee quietly connects to Varian and asks if he still can't find peace after death. Varian's excited to finally have a shot at getting back at the ones who took their darkness. He calls on the goddess for power to avenge her, while Boris is protected inside a glowing ring, teasing him for always finding sneaky ways to survive. Varian shoots back, saying the real counterattack is just getting started. Boris laughs and says darkness will always lose to light. That's just how things work. Varian unleashes a massive magic circle, saying it'll be different this time because he's got her backing him up. Seeing that Kaylee has awakened makes Boris nervous. He tells Varian that the dead should just accept their fate. Varian flatly refuses, saying they'll always stand against people like Boris because that's what his goddess wants, and it's the path to oblivion. The magic circle bursts into blinding light as Varian declares he'll show Boris true oblivion. A huge beam shoots forward, and Boris calls Varian crazy, yelling that he's ready to go down with the attack. Varian accepts that without hesitation, saying Boris won't take anything from them again. The explosion slams Boris into the ground hard enough to leave a massive crater. Back at Ruin Academy, Dean Kundal says he already told the Imperial family Princess Erin will take responsibility for destroying the Romar ruins and asks if she is truly sure about it. Erin calmly accepts it, saying the responsibility falls on her as royalty and she is ready for any punishment. Dean Kundal agrees, but admits Regent Violet will not go easy on her. Still, Erin refuses to back down, saying her mind is already made up. After dismissing her, Dean Kundal regrets letting her visit the ruins and feels guilty watching the world crush someone like her. He believes she has everything needed to become emperor, but wishes she could be selfish for once. The scene shifts to Lunav as Rem mentions Kali wants more followers. Lunav says Kaylee can only regain her full power by gathering believers. Rem sighs and says at least Lady Kali waking up is already a miracle. Lunav notices Rem looks exhausted and asks if he is alright. Rem says some rest will fix it and asks if she has any plan to gather followers since spreading a forgotten foreign god's faith sounds impossible. Lunav reveals she plans to head to Hildev, the first city to worship Rumendel. Rem nearly loses it hearing that. He asks if she seriously plans to spread Kaylee's faith inside the enemy's front yard. Lunav casually points out that old systems always develop cracks eventually, and she simply plans to pry those cracks wide open. Rem admits she has a point but still feels the whole thing sounds insane. Lunav confidently tells him it will work, and even if it somehow fails, he will still help her anyway. Since Rumendel rejected her Kayan, she plans to hit that god exactly where it hurts the most. The scene cuts back to Reshma's training with her sword when Gale suddenly shows up and greets her. She immediately notices his missing arm and asks what happened. Gale brushes it off, saying he has his own problems and she should stop staring at it. Reshmus points out that he is still following them around even in that condition. Gale acts offended and says the least she could do is show some concern for a one-armed man. Reshmus tells him to leave if he only came to crack bad jokes because she is busy. Gale pulls out his sword and says he will get straight to the point instead. The second he moves, Reshmus instantly rushes him and smashes her sword against his sword. The impact shocks her as she realizes he switched to left-handed swordsmanship and asks what suddenly got into him. Gale casually spins his blade and says they should finally settle the fight they never finished before. Reshmus immediately gets into stance while Gale warns her not to underestimate a one-armed swordsman. The two start clashing across the area in a rapid exchange of blows. Gale quickly notices her movements became cleaner and more precise with barely any openings left. But the moment she charges mana for a powerful sword skill, Gale simply watches calmly. She thrusts straight for him but Gale ducks effortlessly. Reshmus gets caught off guard as Gale points out her biggest flaw. Her attacks are way too direct. The moment she realizes she left herself wide open, she braces for a slash. Instead, Gale casually kicks her flat onto the ground. He mocks her for panicking while Reshmus angrily asks what the point of all this is. Gale explains that if he truly wanted her dead, she would already be lying there in pieces. He admits she trains hard, but with such stiff textbook swordsmanship, she will hit her limit fast. What she needs now is a proper teacher. Reshmus asks what he means, and the scene flashes back. Earlier, our hero asked Gale to personally teach Reshmus swordsmanship. He points out that Gale clearly saw her talent too. Gale wonders why he got dragged into this instead of the academy instructors. Our boy casually sits on the table and says none of those instructors compare to the best sword in the Knights of Light. Gale asks if he is saying that while Master Yulkin is still alive. Our boy casually replies that Gale will replace him soon enough. Gale asks what happens if he refuses. Our boy immediately threatens to report him to Violet as a spy. Gale calls that unbelievably unfair while our boy reminds him he is already drowning in problems anyway. Gale finally gives up and agrees, though he warns him not to expect miracles. Our boy then asks if there is any news about Boris. Gale reveals Boris somehow survived despite taking a massive injury. Apparently, he has been hiding in secret while recovering inside the Imperial family's offices, with nobody allowed near him. Gale points out how suspicious Boris getting wrecked and the Romar ruins collapsing at the same time looks. When he asks if our boy and Erin were involved, our boy praises his detective skills instead of denying it. Gale warns him the Apostles of Light are already turning the whole thing into a conspiracy theory circus. As he gets up, Gale mentions he is heading to Princess Erin next. Our boy asks if he finally stopped tailing them around. Gale says it is only an escort mission this time since he has to accompany her to meet her new fiancé. That instantly catches our boy off guard. Gale notices Kyan visibly reacts and quietly feels they will probably meet again soon. Back in the present, Gale snaps Reshmus out of her thoughts and proudly says the Knights of Light's greatest swordsman will train her while staying with them under Princess Violet's orders. Later, Gale arrives with a carriage and thanks Erin for accepting things quietly. Erin calmly says refusing would only create more trouble for others. Gale promises to escort her safely while Reshmus cannot hold back anymore. She says this whole thing feels completely wrong. In her eyes, Violette is practically sending Erin to her death. Punishment was one thing, but forcing her into an engagement with absolute human trash is crossing the line. The scene then cuts to that very trash himself completely drunk out of his mind. A butler named Frederick enters and informs him that Princess Erin has already departed from Ruin and preparations will begin for her arrival. The arrogant drunk, young Master Barrett, smirks with that punchable rich boy face of his and says he has been waiting a very long time for this reunion. Later our boy enters Eru's domain through the gate along with Hastia. Sirika already knows Kayan contacted the goddess of darkness on his own and even turned into a heretic. When he asks how she knows, she casually reveals she was there too. Aren and Lunav were too stubborn, so she followed them while they searched for him, and even heard Lunav met him personally. Our boy wonders what exactly she is planning. Sirika says no matter how monstrous he may be, having faith in two gods with one body is still insane. But our hero fires back that trying to kill the supreme god was already ridiculous from the start. He never had another option. If there was even the tiniest chance, he had to gamble on it. That shuts Sirika up for a moment before she tells him to sort out his own mess and points behind him. Sitting on the throne is the goddess of darkness herself. Kali casually announces that since her temple is gone, she will be staying here for a while and plans to make herself completely at home. Our boy is left stunned while Kali smugly adds that this way they can meet more often. He quickly asks if Eru actually approved this. Kali calmly says he handed over his seat without much fuss. Right then, Eru pops up behind the throne looking slightly embarrassed and insists he is only lending it temporarily out of respect for his elders. Kali instantly realizes that she is far older than Eru and also someone absolutely necessary if they want to kill Rumendel. She asks if his resolve is still intact. Eru casually says he somehow feels the kid will actually pull it off. Kali calls him as carefree as ever before turning back to our boy. She tells him to prepare himself to end this era, but before that he better start gathering followers for the goddess of darkness. Unfortunately, our boy already looks doubtful about that part. Sarika says she already knows the perfect person for the job. He asks Cheyenne if he knows House Rabihane. Our hero says it is the family near Spanya's outskirts, and she confirms, telling him to find their youngest son who recently entered Ruin and already seems closer to their side. Our boy asks what she means and if she knows him. She says he will understand when they meet and warns him to hide his identity, since he will not be seeing just one familiar face there. This leaves our hero even more confused. Meanwhile, Aren finally arrives at Ravalon on the eastern border of the UCF Empire. Aren asks Reshmus if she is tired, but she says she is fine. Gale says training must have worn her out and then presses her bruises, making her cry in pain. He smirks and says she looks sleep-deprived and adds that surviving his training means she has rare talent, so she should keep going. Reshmus quietly thinks he might respond well to Carrot and Stick. Aren asks why he is suddenly so friendly and if it is because of Violette's orders. Gale calmly says he holds no grudge against her and is only doing his job, which irritates Aren even more since she still cannot relax around him. Gale tells her not to be so negative since this trip could benefit her. He explains that Ravalon borders the Spania Kingdom and House Rabihane controls the area with a giant wall that keeps demi-humans out of the Empire. When he mentions building ties with House Rabi, Aren cuts him off and says that would make it easier for the UCF Empire to control its eastern borders. Aren already knows House Rabi earned its status by protecting the eastern border. House Remil also helped them rise by supporting them through trade, and the two houses became closely connected. She explains that House Rabihane recently adopted Barrett Ruimil, the disgrace of House Ruimil. After the mysterious attack at Ruin Academy, he lost his mana and was abandoned by his family, but his engagement to her made him valuable again. Reshmus says they still need Princess Violette's approval. Aren replies they have no choice since they can only obey orders from the imperial family. Gale says she looks like her world is ending, which stuns her. He asks if sulking will change anything. Aren snaps back and asks what he knows to talk so casually, but Gale just smiles and says the world has not ended yet. Since she has not given up either, she should quietly wait for her chance, which annoys them. Right then, the carriage stops as they finally arrive. Frederick greets them outside while Gale quietly thinks it is pretty rude Barrett himself could not bother showing up. Still, Aren greets Frederick politely and follows him inside. On the way, Gale notices a lone swordsman training by himself. He thinks the guy is definitely working hard, but it is sad the poor fellow has absolutely zero talent. In Gale's eyes, all that effort is basically getting thrown into the trash. Meanwhile, the red-headed swordsman keeps training alone while someone silently watches from the rooftop. It is our boy. He already knows the guy is Shirts, but still wonders what the leader sees in him. Even though Shirts trains hard, his talent is terrible, so our hero decides to keep watching for now. Even late at night, Shirts keeps training, and our boy almost starts respecting his stubbornness. By the time Shirts finally stops in exhaustion, our hero casually approaches and offers a spar. He says he will even use a wooden stick to make it fair. Shirts immediately assumes his brother sent him and tells Cayenne to leave if this is some joke. But before he can finish talking, a sword aura flashes right past his eyes. The slash cuts a training dummy clean in half. Shirts freezes on the spot while our boy calmly finishes his sentence. If Shirts survives the fight, he gets to live. Shirts asks what this suddenly means as he realizes Cayenne is strong enough to use sword aura with just a stick. He knows there is no way he can win. Our boy tells him to quit worrying and focus on not dying. Shirts points his sword and decides running would only get him killed faster, so he says dying today is not part of his plans. Our boy reads his stance and asks what exactly he plans to do next. Shirts lunges first. One swing later, our boy snaps the sword clean in half with his stick. Shirts barely processes it before getting smashed in the neck and gut. He spins through the air while our boy mocks him for falling way below expectations. While our hero boasts a little, Shirts manages to throw out his broken sword at our hero. Our boy catches the blade with 2 fingers and praises him for at least rolling well enough to fake skill. Then the boy gets blasted far back. He lands alright and activates a magic circle called Object Explosion. Our boy grins at the sight. The blast goes off right in his face, yet he walks out untouched, asking if a 1-star spell was seriously the plan. That is when Shirts realizes his opponent has powers of black mist. A second later, our boy stomps his face into the ground and gives credit to the kid for the previous sneak attack. He tells Shirts to become an assassin for having eyes that suit the job too well. The scene shifts to the UCF Empire at Imperial Palace. A servant reports that Princess Erin has arrived at Revellion. The woman listening is the second Princess Violette. She says an engagement is one thing, but letting Erin roam free feels reckless since she could join House Robbie and return for revenge. The third Prince Fabian brushes it off and says there is nothing to worry about. Behind him stands the fourth Prince Nerobian. He says they know Barrett better than anyone, and he will deal with her himself. But Violette says that is no longer enough and reveals Boris barely survived the Romar Plateau expedition, while Erin visited the same place that very day. Fabian instantly calls that nonsense and asks if she seriously thinks Erin reduced council head Boris to that state. Violette says the truth is even worse. She recalls Boris speaking about the goddess of darkness Kali resurrecting him. Completely confused, she asks if the Ruins expedition was ever just exploration and demands to know what happened there. Boris then reveals that Cyan apparently awakened the goddess. That alone chills the room. He warns them a massacre is coming for the Empire and they better prepare before the blood starts flowing. Back in the present, Nerobian says they should kill Erin first, but Fabian calls him an idiot since drawing attention now would be suicide. Violette agrees and says that is why she needs to know Barrett can erase Erin for good. Fabian calmly tells her not to panic and says even if her future fiancé is called a cripple, his talent is still monstrous. After being abandoned by his family and taken in by the Count, he stayed quiet, but Fabian says he has probably been hungry for blood this whole time and is close to losing his mind. Cuts to Shirts asking if Kion seriously wants him to join the Mist. Our boy says yes, plus Shirts has no choice unless he wants to die. Shirts asks what he gains from it. Our hero tells Shirts will become strong enough to kill the real trash of the world quietly. Shirts asks if that means he can slaughter his own family too. Our boy looks confused because House Robbie is not even on their target list. Cyan asks him why he does that when his father is famous as the frontier's sentinel for protecting the border from demonic beasts and traffickers near Spania. Shirts says that is exactly the problem. His father values the family more than anything while he himself is just the bastard son of some nameless woman. The house treats him like dirt. His siblings use him as a toy because he inherited none of their talent. Even Barrett, the adopted son, looks down on him. So as far as he cares, the whole house can burn. Now our guy finally understands why Sarika sent him here. He tells the kid fine then, let's see for ourselves what kind of family this really is. He removes his mask and says he will decide personally whether the house deserves ruin or not. At the same time, he realizes this brat feels way too similar to himself. Shirts immediately recognized our boy as Kion Verda. Our hero asks if he wants to change his mind, but Shirts immediately refuses. That makes our boy wonder if perception manipulation is useless against him, so he decides to use this chance to test Kaylee's authority instead. Dark mist spills from his head. Shirts nearly jumps out of his skin and shouts that his face is on fire. Our assassin tells him to relax. He is only changing faces for a bit. Our hero slowly replaces his old look. Even his voice shifts completely. From now on, Cyan is no longer there as his new name is Gunter Richtus. The scene shifts to the guards at the gate. One notices Shirts looking miserable and asks what happened while eyeing the stranger behind him. When they try to stop them, Shirts casually says he got sick and introduces our hero as his new guard knight, Gunter. Our boy quickly notices the guards treat Shirts like trash. The moment one of them starts talking down to him, dark energy leaks from our boy as he coldly says he does not waste words on weaklings and tells them to move. The guard instantly freezes and starts sweating before hurriedly announcing Shirts' arrival and ordering the gates opened. Inside, a man named Alphonse Robbie mocks Shirts for finally coming home. He keeps insulting him and asks if it is really that hard to show himself while Princess Erin is visiting, then tells him to hurry inside. His sister Rosalina Robbie joins in and says Shirts has always been pathetic and nothing more can be expected from the family's disgrace. Shirts simply lowers his head and apologizes with no excuses. Then Alphonse notices our hero and asks who he is. Still acting the part, our boy introduces himself as the new guard knight. The moment he properly sees the couple, disgust crawls up his throat. Our hero already heard House Robbie had 8 siblings, and now he finds 5 more walking piles of trash. Shirts quickly pulls him back and apologizes by saying his knight lacks manners. Even that small disrespect almost drives the siblings crazy. Shirts enters a room where a man stands quietly by the window. The moment he turns around, both Shirts and our boy greet him carefully. This man is Shirts' father, Count Robbie. He immediately notices the unfamiliar face beside Shirts and asks who he is. Our boy gives his fake introduction while quietly thinking the man carries the same heavy presence as his own father. Without warning, Count Robbie suddenly attacks and reaches for our boy's face, but he smoothly dodges to the side. Shirts panics and calls out to his father, but the Count only seems impressed by the quick reflexes. Our boy politely thanks him, and the elder says someone with skills like that can protect his son well. He then asks Shirts if he plans to quit the academy. Shirts says yes and tries to explain, but his father cuts him off and says he already told the academy this was just a rebellious phase. According to him, Shirts does not lack talent but effort, and House Robbie does not let people quit just because they were born weak. The words hit Shirts hard enough to shut him up completely. Count Robbie then dismisses them, saying the house is busy preparing for Princess Erin's arrival. Shirts asks if that means the exhibition spar is happening. Count Robbie casually replies that they always hold one during visits like this. The second they leave the room, Shirts speeds up his pace like he wants to escape the entire estate. On the way, our boy asks if the exhibition spar is basically a swordsmanship match between family members. Shirts confirms it. Cyan immediately grins and says, this sounds like a great chance to crush his siblings and finally earn some respect. Shirts instantly kills that idea as he plans to skip training and run away instead. That answer almost makes our boy snap. He asks if Shirts is really scared of getting beaten again, but Shirts bitterly says our boy already saw how his family treats him. Every spar only makes him the next joke of House Robbie. Instead of mocking him, our boy gently hugs him and quietly says things will be different this time. Then he tells him they should start preparing while waiting for the spar. A strange magic box appears in our boy's hand. Shirts immediately tries to refuse, but our boy shuts him down and says there is no other way if he truly wants strength. Later, the floor is covered with potion bottles for Shirts to drink. Cyan casually says they are all good for the body and tells him to chug them down. Shirts has never even seen potions like these before, but he drinks anyway. A second later, his eyes widen in horror, and he immediately vomits it out. Our boy nearly cries over the wasted medicine and says those potions are worth more than dragon blood. Shirts still looks confused, so our boy lifts a glowing, colorful liquid and calmly explains that if he pukes this one out too, he is absolutely dead. The scene cuts back to the family's favorite arrogant bastard. He respectfully welcomes Erin, then immediately ruins the mood with his usual smug face by saying it has been a long time since they met. Erin politely asks if he has been doing well. He flatly says no. According to him, everything went to hell because of her and her former fiancé. He became crippled, got kicked out of his own house, and only survived because Count Robbie took him in. Since then, he claims he has spent every day wishing he were dead. Erin calmly tells him that the incident had nothing to do with her or her former fiancé. Barrett instantly snaps. He smashes a pillar hard enough to crack it and roars at her to never say that bastard's name in front of him again. He says he always knew that man would eventually betray everyone. Even if nobody else saw it, he did. Blood drips from his hand as he growls that he should have killed the man himself. Knowing that bastard died on his own terms still drives him mad. Then he looks at Erin with a twisted grin and says that now she can be his new toy to torment his memory instead. A maid rushes in after seeing his bleeding hand, but Barrett curses at her and slams a knee into her stomach before she can even help. As the poor maid collapses in pain, he coldly asks how dare she interrupt him. Erin finally steps forward and orders Barrett to back off. Her hover spirit appears beside her as she warns she will not allow any more violence. Barrett laughs and says maybe all the blood rushed to his head. Maybe that is why he has been acting so recklessly lately since he has nothing left to lose anyway. Still, he cannot help grinning at what comes next. Surely his dear fiancée Princess Erin feels the same excitement too. The scene shifts to the plains outside the Empire where Reshmus and Gale are going at each other hard enough to tear up the field. Gale fires off an abyss blast strike, but Reshmus instantly leaps away and avoids the hit completely. Gale looks impressed since she somehow keeps getting faster despite swinging around a giant claymore. Reshmus suddenly charges with monstrous force. Gale lands right in front of her and calmly blocks, thinking her attacks are too straightforward. Then he realizes too late that the dirt flying at his face was intentional. Before he can react, she slips behind him. Gale immediately understands she created that opening on purpose. Reshmus follows up with Bound Sec in one smooth move. The moment her blade swings down, Gale barely jumps in time and escapes the attack. But then he stomps straight onto her head, sending her crashing face first into the ground. Gale casually ends the training while Reshmus remains half buried in the dirt like a planted vegetable. Later, while walking together, Gale admits she has improved a lot. He asks if she plans to join House Robbie's exhibition spar. Reshmus says no since training with him already drains the life out of her. Gale looks disappointed, but Reshmus bitterly admits she has thrown everything she has at him and still cannot leave even a scratch. Gale suddenly stops walking and says that if Barrett joins the exhibition spar, things will get ugly fast. The words drag up old memories for Reshmus. Her life crashed straight into hell because of Barrett. Gale finally understands why Aaron refused to bring Reshmus with her. Reshmus looks miserable knowing her princess is about to get married off to trash like Barrett. Gale casually asks what is so bad about some scumbag marrying the person she likes anyway. Then he lifts up his heavily damaged sword, the same blade that somehow always looked brand new before. Gale tells Reshmus her problem is obvious. She fights like someone still too inexperienced and too soft. Even so, he believes she could someday become the strongest swordsman on the continent. He tells her to stop dwelling on the past and focus only on getting stronger. That way nobody will ever dare touch the people precious to her again. Reshmus finally smiles at that, and the two head back toward the Empire together. The next day, a referee officially began the exhibition spar and ordered all participants to take their positions. Alphonse mocks Shirts for not running and actually chose to fight. He says it changes nothing since he will still get mocked anyway. Even his own elder brother looks down on him. Then he glances at Aaron and realizes it has been a while since he stood this close to her. He cannot believe how she accepts all that just over one imperial order. Then his eyes land on the Barrett and turn nasty. A cripple like him must already be suffering enough, but our boy still plans to smash him. The referee starts the match. Alphonse rolls his sword around and mocks Shirts for always being a human sandbag. He even brings up the beatings from their academy days. Our boy already hates Alphonse after hearing he is from Ruin. That alone explains why he is such a disaster. Alphonse activates a new skill called Excel Rush and appears behind Shirts in an instant. Shirts simply turns around since he already decided the fight is over. Then a brutal strike slams into Alphonse, blocking the attack and shattering it into pieces. Shirts says Alphonse is painfully slow. He already read his movements and mana flow, so he beats him down without even using magic. One clean jab lands right on Alphonse's face. Every brother is stunned. Even the Count sits frozen. One punch is enough to send Alphonse crashing down while 3 teeth fly out. As Alphonse coughs up blood, Shirts already knows the bullying at home will only get worse. The pain in Shirts' arm tells him beating this trash is still not enough. Then our boy asks why he is even worrying about revenge. Of course they will come back for payback. Losing once only makes people hate harder. Shirts wonders if he should just lose instead. Our boy tells him to crush them so badly they never dare try again. Leave enough fear behind to haunt them for life. Back in the spar, Shirts drives another jab into Alp's face and slams him into the ground. Even Aaron stands speechless with the other brothers. Rosalind instantly yells for the match to stop before Shirts kills him. Our boy smirks. Now that is a proper impression. Shirts' hand drips with Alphonse's blood as the referee declares him the winner. Rosalind trembles under his stare and nervously wonders if she is next. Just then, the eldest brother, Oliver, breaks the glass of wine seeing Alp knocked out. He says their youngest brother looks frustrated and reminds Rosalind that her reputation as the eldest daughter is on the line. Surely she is not planning to just stand there and watch. Rosalind stays silent. Later, Shirts walks into a room and our boy praises him while recalling the ridiculous look on his sister's face. Shirts gives all the credit to the dragon blood and says he is taking a break. Then he asks who the next fighter is. Our boy casually says it is him. Shirts is shocked and asks if he is seriously joining the sparring matches. Our boy says his target is Barrett since that vermin is participating too. He plans to finally teach him a lesson for tormenting people. Shirts asks if he knows Barrett personally. Our boy reveals he was the one who made Barrett mana impaired. He fed him a mana orb hoping it would stop him from ruining lives, but sadly the pest survived and hurt people again. Through Shirts' memories, our hero realizes Barrett kept causing misery. At that point, he decides the problem should have been crushed from the start. Right then, Rosalind storms into the room. Shirts is about to ask why she came when she suddenly slaps him across the face. She demands to know how he dares look at her like that. Then she mocks his unknown mother and tells him to remember his place in the family. She raises her hand for another slap, but this time Shirts catches it midair. He coldly tells her she should stop before something ends up broken. Rosalind instantly starts sweating as fear creeps into her face. She quickly backs down and says she will let it slide for now. Before she goes, she warns him that his guard knight is about to get crushed because Dekau will be facing him. She proudly says Dekau is a quasi-sword saint and his guard has 0 chance against him. After she leaves, our boy asks if this opponent is really that strong. Shirts explains that Dekau is the guard knight of his third sister, Ceres, a mysterious swordsman rumored to cut even stars apart with a swing. On top of that, the guy is annoyingly handsome, so Ceres practically worships him. Our boy remains cold, but Shirts just laughs inwardly since no swordsman alive is beating someone who drinks dragon blood like juice. Soon the Imperial officials call the contestants forward for the next match. Our hero steps into the arena opposite Dekau, beloved knight of Lady Ceres. The girls in the crowd are practically melting over him. Dekau proudly asks if he can feel the passionate gazes of the audience. That, he says, is the difference between them. Then he proposes a fair match. Meanwhile, the crowd keeps mocking our boy's rough appearance, though Erin cannot stop staring at him. Her heart keeps racing as if she somehow already knows him. Nearby, Barrett keeps glaring possessively at his fiancée. At the same time, Saraswati loudly cheers for her knight's victory. She arrogantly talks about the overwhelming gap between nobles and lowborn trash, making Shirts think she sounds as stupid as ever. Then the match starts. Dekau instantly unleashes his signature shooting star blade, aiming to finish things in one strike. But his sword suddenly stops, because our boy catches the blade with his teeth. The sword shatters into pieces inside his mouth. Dekau freezes in disbelief since that weapon was forged from a fragment of a fallen comet. Then our boy casually smashes his forehead into Dekau's face and sends the so-called star-cutting knight flying across the arena. The audience cannot believe what they just witnessed. Moments ago they praised Dekau like a hero. Now he is rolling on the ground after getting bullied in seconds. Our boy walks away thinking it was the most boring match ever. Shirts already expected this outcome. Meanwhile, Sarah straight up faints from shock after watching her precious knight get folded like cheap laundry. Guards rush her away for medical treatment, while Rosalind quietly loses her sanity in the background. Even the father and Oliver admit the youngest son's guard knight is frighteningly skilled. Still, Oliver notices something strange about his movements. The father agrees. Without real combat experience, nobody would notice it, but his attacks come from blind spots and impossible angles. In darkness, his movements would be nearly invisible. That man is definitely an assassin. Later that night, Shirts excitedly talks about how much stronger he became in just one day. He proudly declares he is finally ready to become an assassin. Our boy says there is one condition. To gain that power, he must serve the goddess of darkness. Shirts has no clue what that means but agrees immediately anyway. Then our boy says he will begin the modification process. Shirts asks what modification even means. Suddenly, our boy's arm turns pitch black. He calmly tells Shirts to stay still because he just wants to test something out. The next day, Shirts keeps crushing match after match. Now he is even using our hero's techniques. After watching his swordsmanship, the crowd cannot hide their shock anymore. His movements are too sharp and unpredictable for most opponents to handle. He even beats fighters twice his size without much effort. What confuses everyone most is his weapon choice. Nobody in the family uses daggers, yet somehow Shirts suddenly learned them and mastered them like a veteran overnight. Of course, the answer is our boy's shady little upgrade system. Back when our hero used the modification on him, Shirts admitted it looked suspicious as hell. But our boy activated the authority of the goddess of darkness called Enshroud, and darkness immediately started leaking into Shirts' body. Our boy realizes that if memories can be erased, they should also be manipulated. Right now, Shirts lacks combat experience, so why not temporarily shove battle skills straight into his memories? Honestly, the guy hit the jackpot by having our boy on his side. The black mist seeps deeper into him while Shirts screams in pain. Meanwhile, our boy quietly chuckles since there are not many people left who can challenge him anymore. Shirts kept winning afterward. Even his father begins enjoying the matches, though Oliver points out his next opponent will not be easy. It is the arrogant brute Barrett. The idiot looks way too excited to spar with his little brother. Shirts frowns and asks if brother Harry was not supposed to be the next opponent. Barrett casually says Harry got busy, so he came instead. The night before, Barrett visited Harry to ask for the match. Harry was lounging around with wine and girls, while casually asking if Barrett thought he was unreliable. Barrett says he simply got interested. Harry then asks whether fighting Shirts will really be fine. That instantly pisses Barrett off. He warns Harry to watch his mouth. How could he possibly lose to a weak-ass Shirts just because he happens to be crippled? The moment Barrett gets angry, Harry tense up in fear. Barrett says he could erase someone like Harry without making a sound. Then he mocks Harry's house, saying they would never have prospered without House Rumel's support. He reminds him that adoption into the family does not mean he can forget his place. Harry immediately apologizes while shaking. Barrett likes the reaction and lightly punches him before telling him to keep drinking himself unconscious, since he will handle the spar instead. Still, what truly interests Barrett is confirming the strange swordsmanship he noticed from Shirts. Soon the match begins. Even Aaron immediately recognizes Shirts' stance as Tyan's swordsmanship, making her wonder if Kyan himself is somewhere nearby. The daggers clash with the sword. This time, Barrett easily pushes Shirts back. He mocks him and asks where all that confidence went before rushing in again. Our boy quietly watches and wonders what Barrett is planning when the idiot cannot even use mana. Shirts counters with a savage dagger strike, but the moment his blade hits Barrett's armor, the mana completely disperses. Worse, Barrett's sword cuts straight into Shirts' stomach. Even the crowd gasps. Our boy instantly realizes Barrett came prepared. The armor he is wearing is called Cabana, a counter mana artifact. Barrett proudly explains that no matter how skilled Shirts is, he will never scratch this armor, because it is the ultimate bane of magic. It was forged from a rare mineral discovered by the Graham Council. Even Graham refused to use it because it blocks the wearer's mana too, making it useless for normal warriors. But for a mana-impaired fighter like Barrett, it is perfect. He smugly asks if the armor is not fascinating. Surprisingly, Shirts starts laughing instead. That completely stuns Barrett. Shirt slowly stands while clutching his wound and says this actually makes him happy, because it means people are finally acknowledging him. That must be why Sister Rosaline kept trying to suppress him, and why Barrett needed absurdly expensive armor just to face him. Then he coldly says Barrett would never understand what it feels like to live in the gutter. Even while bleeding, he points his dagger forward and says he is genuinely delighted right now. For the first time, Barrett feels chills run down his spine. Then the bell suddenly rings. A servant rushes to the Count and reports that mummies have appeared on the eastern border. Count Robbie immediately orders Princess Erin to relocate somewhere safe. She refuses and says the people need protection first. The match gets suspended on the spot while the officials tell everyone to return home because the mummy attack has begun. Even so, Barrett glares at Shirts and promises to finish him later. Our boy gets annoyed since the fight was finally becoming entertaining before the undead ruined everything. So he decides to check out the mummies himself just to kill some boredom. Outside the Empire, the warriors quickly take formation. Ahead of them, the sand dunes violently explode apart as mummies crawl out from beneath the desert. A massive blast erupts near the front lines and hordes of undead suddenly appear. The guards instantly deploy defensive barriers, while the mages activate large magic circles behind them. Fireballs rain across the battlefield and incinerate waves of incoming mummies. From a distance, our boy watches the battle and realizes something strange. Mummies were originally found only in Spania, so why are they here? Then it clicks. In his previous life, Ravion used to be full of greenery, not endless desert. These creatures must be the reason the land became desertified. He starts wondering if the cause is somehow connected to Eshel's disappearance. Meanwhile, below, Count Robbie notices our boy and asks Frederick what he discovered. Frederick reports that he investigated Gunther at Ruin Academy, but nobody there knows any man by that name. What is even stranger is that the academy students did not even know the young master had a guard knight. Robbie quietly orders Frederick to keep watching. After all, Shirt suddenly became stronger overnight, and his swordsmanship changed completely. Everything points back to that mysterious knight named Gunther. The scene switches back to Shirts, who can't believe he actually kept up with his brother during the fight. For the first time ever, he feels happy knowing he's no longer the weakling everyone used to look down on. Oliver walks over and checks if he's okay. Shirts is surprised by his brother's concern and quickly replies that the treatment was quick and the injuries are minor. Oliver hands him a proper suit and points out that he's been wearing rags, especially with the fifth princess around. Before leaving, he coldly mentions it's just for the family's dignity, but Shirts clings to the clothes like they're the best gift he's ever received. Before heading out, Oliver asks where his guard knight went. Shirts explains that Gunther left earlier because he had some business to take care of. Oliver warns him not to let Gunther roam freely since Barrett has been acting strangely interested in him lately. Still, Shirts isn't worried. He knows Barrett will be the one buried soon. Our boy slides down a wall and hits the ground, where Barrett comes over, clearly impressed by his skills. He casually mentions it's a shame for someone so talented to be working for someone like Shirts and suggests having a private chat. Our boy follows him silently as Barrett leads him downstairs into a secret room that's clearly reserved for close associates. As he opens the door, he jokes that no one would care if someone disappeared in there. Inside the room, a mountain of wine, beautiful women, and enough luxury to make anyone lose their mind. Barrett encourages our boy not to be shy and to indulge in the kind of stuff that most people only fantasize about. He proudly states that every girl there was picked specifically by him. As soon as our boy steps in, Barrett snaps his fingers and tells the girls to treat the guest with all sincerity. One of the girls immediately wraps herself around our boy and whispers for him to relax. Meanwhile, Barrett grabs two girls and heads towards a seat, mentioning they have some serious stuff to talk about. At that moment, our boy calmly activates the authority of the god of black fog. In an instant, all the girls in the room lose their heads, even the one next to him. Barrett freezes in shock while our boy effortlessly expands the darkness and activates his domain, Void. Suddenly, Barrett finds himself trapped in a never-ending dark space, with nothing around except our boy standing right in front of him. Confused, he hears our boy casually ask him what might hurt more. As our boy walks toward him, he says that killing him would be too easy since it would just leave him with a grudge. Then he reveals his face, and the moment Barrett realizes it's Cyan, his desire for revenge flares up. Cyan coldly states that Barrett's sins are too heavy for a quick death, so he's got a better plan. He'll take him out bit by bit. Barrett quickly activates his armor, shocked to see Cyan still alive. He boasts that now he can finally get back at him for messing up his mana. But our boy just gestures with one hand, and Barrett freezes up, unable to budge even a finger. Our boy glances at the fancy armor and comments on how Barrett spent a fortune on it, but it's all useless in a realm created by divine power. He calls for his dagger and, with a smirk, asks Barrett if all his wealth is enough to bribe a god. In an instant, a slash cuts clean through Barrett's arm and armor like they're nothing. Barrett can barely scream. Our guy tells him not to cry because this is just the start. Another quick slash takes off his leg, followed by the other arm. Barrett goes down, helpless on the ground, and our guy mutters that something still feels off about this whole thing. Then it hits him. Out of nowhere, Barrett finds his voice and lets out a terrifying shriek. Our guy stomps on his chest, reassuring him that he'll eventually forget this moment. That terror will just be buried deep in his mind forever. With a creepy grin, he promises to slowly tear him apart from the inside while Barrett sobs like a wreck. Meanwhile, in reality, our guy is just messing with him in his mind as Barrett keeps begging him to stop. Watching this play out, he chuckles and thinks that soon Barrett will probably wet himself just hearing Kyan's name. Then he glances over at the girls and decides they should just forget this whole place and live normal lives. So he wipes their memories too, making it all feel like just a bad dream for Barrett. After that, he casually leaves them all passed out on the floor. Later on, Shirts walks into his dad's room, and his dad comments on how sharp he looks. Shirts happily shares that Oliver bought him the new clothes. His dad nods, saying Oliver likely wanted to encourage his recent growth. He then asks where Shirts picked up such unusual sword skills, and Shirts honestly replies that he learned it all from his guard knight. His dad then reveals why he called him there. From what he found out, his guard supposedly hails from Limberstar. Even worse, Gunther has a reputation as a complete madman whose cruelty scared everyone around him. People said he vanished years ago, and some even rumored that he was dead. His dad quietly questions if a guy like that should really be allowed in their territory. The atmosphere gets pretty tense all of a sudden. Shirt starts to freak out because his dad's look turns intimidating, but he musters up some guts and sticks up for Gunther, assuring his dad that he won't bring shame to the family. After that, the room goes silent, and Shirts feels a wave of cold sweat when he realizes he just talked back to his old man. Just then, the door swings open, and Princess Erin walks in, asking if she's interrupting something. Instantly, Dad softens up and asks her how her stay was. With her sweet and calm smile, Erin thanks him and wonders if he was chatting with his youngest son. Shirts can't help but blush at her beauty. His dad quickly reminds him to keep his cool, making Shirts apologize so fast that he almost trips over his words. Erin gently reassures him it's all good and then compliments him on his sword fighting during the sparring matches, making Shirts blush even more. Then, with a hint of shyness, Erin asks if she can request something from him. Stunned, Shirts listens intently as she smiles and asks him to show her around Ravion. Later, Barrett wakes up in a bed, drenched in sweat as memories of a horrifying nightmare flash through his mind. Frederick walks over, so Barrett asks what even happened to him. Frederick tells him he passed out drunk in the middle of the street. Barrett can't remember anything and doesn't even know who he was drinking with. Frederick asks what's wrong, but Barrett's hands keep trembling as he mutters that he can't even feel his hand anymore. The scene shifts to Shirts dragging Aaron and Reshmus to the Peace Square fountain, saying wishes made there supposedly come true. Aaron casually mentions the Imperial Palace has one too, leaving Shirts awkwardly realizing he barely knows Ravelon himself. When he asks where to go next, Aaron just shrugs and says, this place already looks good enough anyway. While Kyan eats an apple, he wonders if Aaron still believes her god would do something even after going through a forced engagement. No matter how he thinks about it, he just can't understand her at all. Seeing Reshmus as her only guard, Shirts asks why Aaron avoids male knights. Reshmus explains the princess hates making people uneasy with armed guards in crowded places. She trains herself for danger anyway, and Reshmus simply respects her wish to stay close with normal people, which she's doing right now. Just then, Barrett shows up looking completely exhausted and asks if Shirts has been dragging Aaron around Ravillion. Barrett calls these places boring as hell, but Aaron casually asks why he's limping. Barrett says he only sprained his ankle a little, then smugly adds that he's glad Aaron cares so much about her fiancé. That instantly annoys our boy, but he keeps quiet. Then Barrett notices Reshmus and says she's changed a lot since the last time he saw her. He notices the hatred on her face and mocks her, asking if becoming the princess's escort knight suddenly made her bloodline valuable. Aaron finally cuts in and warns Barrett to stop crossing the line. But Barrett ignores her and keeps harassing Reshmus like she's the one pushing him to snap. Then he starts bringing up her miserable past just to get under her skin. Reshmus coldly reminds him that Aaron already warned him once, and if he keeps acting uncivilized, she'll personally put him down. Barrett nearly loses it when Shirts draws everyone's attention to his injuries. He mocks Barrett, saying he must have gone too hard during their spar and apologizes for beating him up too badly. Aaron and Reshmus are stunned. Our hero instantly relaxes, thinking he doesn't even need to interfere anymore. Shirts keeps teasing him while Barrett shakes in rage and says they never properly finished their spar, so he orders Shirts to follow him to the training grounds. The scene shifts to the arena as Barrett says no one will interrupt them this late. Still furious over being mocked, he declares they'll fight to the death. If Shirts wants this match, then he better face the consequences. Watching from the side, Reshmus asks if this is really fine. Aaron admits she wanted to stop it, but also wants to see Barrett get beaten up. Reshmus feels the same and plans to step in and erase Barrett if Shirts gets seriously hurt. Then she looks back at Gunther and asks if he's not worried. Our boy calmly replies that Shirts clearly picked this fight because he believes he can win, so what's there to worry about? Aaron reminds him that Barrett's armaments block mana, meaning most shirt skills won't even work against him. Tyann just smirks and asks since when people started fighting with magic alone. Right then, Shirts casually tosses his dagger onto the ground. Barrett stares in disbelief and asks what the hell he's doing. Shirts simply takes a fighting stance barehanded. That instantly sends Barrett into a rage as he asks how dare he fight weaponless against him. Barrett explodes forward with insane speed, roaring that fists alone could never beat his skills. But the second his sword swings down, Shirts drives a brutal punch straight into his stomach. Barrett instantly coughs in agony as a storm of punches crashes into him from every direction. Then the final hit lands directly in his gut and sends him flying backward. Shirts admits fighting barehanded was honestly a gamble, but somehow it worked perfectly. Barrett can't even process what just happened. He wonders what Shirts did to him because he suddenly can't gather strength anymore. Parts of his body go numb and he realizes he might actually die. Then Shirts' shadow looms over him as he asks how it feels to be weak. Looking down at his older brother, he says it feels like seeing his old self and admits looking down on someone is not so bad after all. He slowly pulls back his fist, wanting to savor the moment as Barrett begs him to stop. Reshmus realizes Shirts might kill him, so Aaron orders everyone to end the fight immediately. Our guy steps forward and asks if this is better for her since she would not have to suffer the engagement anymore. Aaron freezes, shocked he already knows. She says even without the engagement this is wrong. He still does not fully understand her but says there is no need to interfere since someone else is already moving. A figure suddenly rushes toward Shirts at full speed while shouting for him to stop. Shirts is just inches away from smashing Barrett's face in, but his fist stops at the very last second. Oliver suddenly clocks Shirts with one punch, sending him flying. Even Aaron freezes in shock. Oliver calls the whole thing disgraceful, asking what kind of pathetic fight between brothers they are putting on in front of Princess Aaron. Shirts says they are not brothers. According to him, he is just the adopted kid everyone in the house treated like trash. Oliver warns him to watch his mouth, but Shirts fires back, asking if he somehow forgot all the torment he went through inside the family. Oliver coldly replies that nobody will acknowledge him if he keeps choosing the wrong path. Then he grabs Barrett by the collar and tells everyone to pretend nothing happened today. He also warns Barrett to stop dragging the family name through the mud before politely apologizing to Aaron. Watching all this, our boy realizes Oliver clearly is not on Barrett's side. As Oliver leaves, Aaron immediately rushes over to Shirts to check if he is all right. Meanwhile, our boy notices Reshmus standing there with a blank face like she had been waiting all day for Barrett to disappear. Looking at Aaron, our boy starts wondering if this is her way of choosing the righteous path even when easier options exist. Sure, she is still stubborn as ever, but maybe that stubbornness is exactly what a future ruler needs. Later, our boy asks Shirts where the princess usually goes. Shirts is busy squatting under a ridiculous amount of weight while looking one rep away from death. He explains that Aaron often visits the eastern side of Ravalon, where an ancient spire stands. Our boy casually asks if he is struggling. Shirts' exhausted face already answers the question. A second later, he drops the weights and collapses dramatically, saying his body is about to split in half. Without mercy, our boy hands him another potion. Shirts stares at it in horror and asks how long he has to keep drinking this stuff. Our hero reminds him that he lost badly to his eldest brother Oliver, so he should start treating the potion like water. Honestly, at this point, he may as well mix it into his snacks too. Then our boy asks about the ruins. Shirts explains they were first believed to be nothing more than a giant pile of stone in the middle of the desert. But after people discovered an entrance, mummies started crawling everywhere. According to his father, the place is deeply connected to them. Right in the middle of explaining, Shirts suddenly vomits the potion. Completely unfazed, our boy keeps questioning him anyway and asks if Aaron and you are going there alone. Shirts explains that his father and several knights are accompanying them since the area is extremely dangerous. Then Shirts asks if our boy still has ties to Aaron since she used to be his fiancée. Our boy bluntly tells him to stay away from her if he values his peace. Shirts watches him leave and quietly wonders if Tyann still has feelings for Aaron. After a brutal trek through the desert, Oliver points ahead and announces that this is the spire of Ravalon. Thanks to the endless dust storms, getting any closer is nearly impossible. A one-eyed guide explains that mummy activity has exploded recently, making the place even more dangerous. Aaron and Shirts quickly realize the storms are probably why everyone connects the spire to the mummies. Thankfully, the guide creates a barrier so the group can move safely. Oliver comments that he did not expect Princess Aaron to be interested in a place like this. Aaron calmly replies that ancient civilizations fascinate her. Oliver explains that many people share the same curiosity, but no one has secured a safe route because of the non-stop storms and endless waves of mummies. Shirts confidently tells Aaron not to worry, since they will protect her no matter what. Aaron simply thanks him. She asks whether they will still be safe as long as they avoid getting too close, and Shirts explains that he is only saying it just in case. Oliver notices the two chatting and immediately calls Aaron over. Then he grabs Shirts and suddenly asks Aaron whether she would consider continuing her engagement with him instead. Completely stunned, Aaron asks if things were not already decided with Barrett. Oliver says he knows, but Barrett has gone too far. Shirts instantly starts sweating bullets while Oliver explains that he only considered Barrett because of House Rumill's request. But after today, he refuses to let him disgrace the family name any longer. Then Oliver suddenly starts praising Shirts non-stop, and our boy almost overheats from shock. Oliver talks about how talented he has become and even praises him for helping commoners on the streets. Poor Shirts genuinely starts wondering if he is hallucinating. Aaron accepts the proposal but explains that permission from the Imperial family is still necessary since she must follow their decision. Oliver casually tells her not to worry about that and thanks her. Meanwhile, the one-eyed guide silently listens to everything. His face stays calm, but internally, the man is absolutely boiling. Back home, Shirts cannot stop replaying Oliver's words in his head. Oliver had openly said that he and Princess Erin looked good together and even promised to speak with the Imperial family himself. To make things worse for Shirts' poor heart, Oliver also admits he was impressed by how he handled Barrett. Then he pats him on the head and says he truly deserves the name of House Robbie, despite growing this far without anyone's help. At that point, Shirts is basically floating. The guy finally got acknowledged. Then he suddenly wonders what Cyan would say about all this. A second later, he decides Cyan would probably poison him for changing his opinion about Aaron. Honestly, fair enough. Still, Shirts decides he should start focusing on his own happiness for once. Maybe he can even tell Cyan he is finally in a good mood, though that immediately reminds him Cyan is literally never happy. The moment Shirts opens the door, Aaron is standing there waiting for him. Aaron immediately apologizes for showing up so suddenly and asks for forgiveness in advance for what he is about to do. Shirts is still confused when Reshma suddenly appears behind him and presses a blade against his throat. Completely stunned, Shirts asks why they are doing this. Aaron coldly replies that this is the only method she has before getting straight to the point and asking when House Robbie started conspiring against them. The scene then cuts to Barrett, who can barely see or even feel his own hands. The one-eyed guide stands beside him before casually stomping him into the ground. Barrett curses blindly since he cannot even tell who is beating him. The strange man mocks him in disappointment, asking how he managed to screw up everything just because he could not make one woman his.